And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bashing us, him.
Attention to roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern time. And of course, Monday morning, back for the weekend. I hope everyone had a fruitful weekend. I hope you had a weekend of highlights. And that's what it's about. We are headed for Mother's Day is coming soon. So I hope that everyone's getting prepared for that. Make sure you take care of your wife, girlfriend, your mom, and whoever's a mom out there. It's one of the toughest jobs. Mother's Day is interesting, coming up next weekend, right? Or it's the actually the biggest restaurant day of the year. So get your reservations in now, definitely, and take care of the women that really raise our children. You know, we owe it to them. And so with that being said, a lot of content going on in New York City. NYPD just doesn't stop. It just keeps on going. Talk about the NYPD's SRG, Strategic Response Group. It appears it's going to be rebranded. Now, I have spoken to numerous people that are actually in SRG that are looking to get transferred to SRG, and they've all said the same thing, reiterated the same information that we've been telling you, that it's not going anywhere. You've been told it's going to be disbanded, but it's going to be not disbanded, but rebranded, just like everything else. So same story, just a different name, same mission, and that's the reality, and just covering up with a different blanket. So we're going to get into that today, and I think love to hear our friends and listeners what your thoughts are on that. What's your thoughts on SRG? Does it make a difference if they change the name? And what are your thoughts? Did you think it's actually going to get disbanded under Zohran Mamdani? So to me, this is no surprise. This has been a template for the NYPD for decades, as long as I can remember, even before I was on the job, of just rebranding, right? We see rebrand after rebrand, and the reality, the reason why we see rebrand after rebrand is because at the heart and the fabric of policing just doesn't change. That's what's necessary to continue forward. Exactly. Mike Marino, Chief Marino, spot on, says it's the rebranded task force. And that's what we see often, because you need specialized units, especially when it comes to addressing First Amendment activities and also counterterrorism. So good morning, John. Good morning, Marlon. Let's get into it.
What's up, everybody? Yeah, no, I think it's funny, man. It's funny, like these politicians, Zohran Mamdani, he campaigned that he was going to disband the SRG. He stepped in nearly like minutes after he was sworn in. He was going to disband the SRG. He went on a media tour saying he was going to disband the SRG. Tisch was like, dancing around it. We don't know. We're looking at other ways to revolutionize policing, First Amendment. His deputy mayor, Ellie Bisgard, she went all over the news too, saying we're going to disband the SRG. We're committed to disbanding the SRG. The reason they're giving makes absolutely no sense. The reason that they say that the SRG needs to be disbanded is because they were founded to be a counterterrorism unit, which is not really true. They weren't. There is a counterterrorism component to them, not a large one. But the fact that they want to do that, they want to decouple counterterrorism resources from policing First Amendment activities, everybody should be jumping up and down in New York City. Every law enforcement head should be jumping up and down. All of the unions should be jumping up and down, because this is going to put their members at risk, this ideology, as well as it's going to put millions of New Yorkers and tourists at risk every day. So I'm like laughing, going, oh, I thought every day since he was sworn in, there's been protests on the street in New York, and every day, who's deployed to them? The SRG. So it's like, wow, it's weird. I thought you were going to disband them. So it's very obvious that he can't disband the SRG. They're highly effective at what they do. They're more transparent at handling these mass gatherings and these mass arrest situations than average rank and file cops. They're much more competent at it. They're more highly trained in doing so. And having a competent protest response is a counterterrorism deterrent. Having a protest response that's properly staffed with individuals who know what they're doing and trained to act and move crowds is a counterterrorism component. Doesn't necessarily mean they're a counterterrorism unit, So I think all of that fails on its face, but it shows the fact that Zohran Mamdani is in fact what we said he was. He's not this revolutionary socialist that wants to take down the New York City Police Department. What Zohran Mamdani is a lying fraud, old school Democrat who wants to further defund and emasculate the police. Zohran Mamdani is no different. He's following the path laid before him with Eric Adams and Bill de Blasio. I mean, this is just what it is. I mean, so to sit there and continuously say you're going to disband the SRG, it's laughable. What they're going to do is they're going to run a public relations media campaign, and they're going to tell you that they're disbanding the SRG, when in fact, all they're really doing is going to rebrand the SRG. They're going to find a nicer, softer unit. They're going to put together some BS training that changes nothing. And every time you see a protest, you're going to see the same exact response that you saw with SRG. You're just going to see people in a different uniform, on the different training, and it's going to be sold to you a completely different way so that Zohran Mamdani could tell his radical base that he kept his campaign promises. That's what it is. I mean, that's what it is. That's what it was always going to be. Everyone knew that ahead of time. I mean, so just in case, Tisch or Zohran, you're listening right now, this was easily predictable. This wasn't like anything that needed any inside information. I mean, we said this months ago. We said this before you even came in office. This is exactly what happened. They won't get rid of them. They'll just rebrand it. They'll change the uniform. They'll change some stuff about them. It's ridiculous to me. And then they'll go on the media tour, and all these cowards appointed. Somebody will get appointed to lead this new unit. It'll be another chief spot. It's all BS. It's all BS, and it just shows how far the city of New York has slipped, where we put politics ahead of public safety. And those chiefs that are in charge of the NYPD, how cowardly and spineless they are, because they're going to go along with it, and they're going to go along with the ride, and they're going to try to sell to the public and their members that, we're doing this. We're revolutionizing policing First Amendment activity, when in fact they aren't.
They don't even deserve the name chiefs, honestly.
Oh.
They really don't.
Well, you don't have to tell me. I've been saying that for.
we gotta come up with a new name. Besides managers, something even that they really deserve. Good morning, brother.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, everyone. I wouldn't hold my breath for anyone in the department to push back against any of it. I mean, again, it's that pretending that they're creating something revolutionary is part of the kayfabe that's part of New York politics, And again, for you audience who don't know, kayfabe is a wrestling term where everyone, it's basically the unwritten rule where everyone pretends it's real. Okay, so it's kayfabe in New York politics when chiefs go on a media tour afterwards and then regurgitate the same line that Tisch told them, and they'll act like it's something revolutionary being done, and other parts of the city will play along too. Maybe they'll go in front of city council, and city council will play along. It's all PR. It's all theater. Okay, and we told you before, when Zohran was just campaigning, in fact, that he's not a real radical. I mean, he's nothing more than the same old Democrat politics, because again, he's a wealthy kid with a trust fund, and if he's a real progressive, we're not talking about somebody who grew up maybe poor or middle class. It's no different from someone like Cuomo, except maybe Cuomo has a little bit more money, but it's really the same politician, but rebranded for the younger progressive base of the Democrat Party. And this
Wait, hold on, Mom. Cuomo said that he drove a tow truck to put his way through college.
yeah, sure he did. Yeah. It's nothing but the same rebrand, guys, to convince the younger progressive wing of the Democrat Party that, hey, we're gonna change things this time. Okay. Yeah, sure you will. Okay. Yeah. But we have a lot of parts of this to talk about today. So yeah, I hope you guys in the chat who are joining us, our regulars, had a great weekend as well. And yeah, I'm ready to go.
You see, this is why I have, and I often say this, right? My disappointment goes far beyond Zohran Mamdani or Eric Adams or former Mayor Bill de Blasio. And especially when we talk about Zohran Mamdani, the people voted for Zohran Mamdani. They actually expected him to be a complete democratic socialist. And what we've been telling you is he's actually just the same as Eric Adams and former Mayor Bill de Blasio. You've gotten the same thing. Or if you would have chosen, if he would have been elected, Andrew Cuomo, it's the same thing. He's not as far as a democratic socialist that people have expected, but he is anti-police. So is Eric Adams. So is former Mayor Bill de Blasio. And so is Andrew Cuomo. The only difference is Zohran Mamdani told you who he is. He told you his position. He was pretty transparent. So I really take no issue with Zohran Mamdani because the people voted for him. This is what they want, and this is what they got. But my issue is with the upper echelon of the NYPD. And anyone who's active as a chief, in my firm belief, doesn't even deserve that term. And this is the problem. It's those active chiefs up to police commissioner that allow these insane policies and insane radical ideas to actually get fermented within the police department because they could form a coalition and say, listen, this is not how you do police work because we care more about the residents. We care about the lives of people. That's why we took an oath to the Constitution. That's why we do this job, because we love people and care about them more than we care about our next stars, which is a complete lie. And so they allow this to ferment because there is strength in numbers. If they all stood up together in some type of coalition and said, hey, Mayor, we can't do this. We can't sign off on this. We can't endorse this. Well, even though the mayor's in that position, he would have a lot of pushback. And then if the unions got behind it also, it would be a big display. It would be a mutiny. But unfortunately, instead, they all fall in line, which is why every mayor that has these insane policies, from former Mayor Bill de Blasio till now, these policies go through. Now, we've seen rebrand time and time again. It's been the play game. It's been the play for the NYPD. It's the call. Rebrand, right? When anti-crime was disbanded, and what did they replace it with? A quasi-anti-crime team. Who did that come from? Not Zohran Mamdani. That came from Eric Adams, right? You had an even more of a quasi-anti-crime team on steroids. Those were the khaki pants. Another rebrand. The only difference is every time we see a rebrand, it gets worse. Anti-crime was fantastic. Instead, we rebranded it into public safety in these quasi-uniforms, neighborhood safety cops, and then also the khaki pants unit. CPOP rebranded to Neighborhood Coordination Officer Program. Neighborhood Coordination Officer Program went far beyond what CPOP was. CPOP was actually good, but the Neighborhood Coordination Officer Program took it on steroids, where cops totally didn't engage people, at least on a policing matter. It was about hugs and cups of coffee. And now we have the SRG, which will be rebranded again with the same similar mission. I didn't say not the same, similar, because it will be tailed back and it will be worse. And that's what we see. Every time we see a rebrand, it gets worse. They try to replicate the same idea, wearing a quasi-uniform or a quasi-name and getting the cops to be more into hugging people than do actual police work. This is a problem. And the problem is, and I'm going to say it again, it's because of the chiefs, the appointed managers, whatever you want to say, up to police commissioner, don't stand up against this. And they know damn well you have a jellyfish who's the chief of the department right now, who has 30-some-odd years of experience, intelligent man, who doesn't stand up against this and say, this is not how we do police work. Every cop right now, John, you just said it, SRG has a component of counterterrorism. And that is absolutely a fact. But every cop, even your most basic cop on patrol, should be part of the fight towards counterterrorism. It's a major aspect especially in New York City or any city in this country, should be part of the policing apparatus. But instead, Zohran Mamdani and the active chiefs of the NYPD up to police commissioner are not standing up against this, and they know that counterterrorism is a real threat. So for them, I believe they put the residents of New York City at risk because they want to get their next bar. Shame on them.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the whole thing is just all bullshit. Like it's all the same game. I think, if you think that there's a difference between Zohran Mamdani and anyone in the upper echelon of the NYPD, they're politicians. I mean, that's basically what they are. Jimmy Wagner, president of the Donald J. Trump Kings County Republican Club, he put out a video a while back, and I was cracking up, and I still think about it. Like, it still hits me in the head. And he's like, you voted for socialism, so why don't you get your socialism? How come your rent isn't frozen? How come you don't have free buses? How come the SRG hasn't been disbanded? He didn't go that far, but he was basically saying, like, all of his campaign promises you voted for, and you haven't received any one of them. So why are you now advocating to the mayor to fulfill his campaign promises? And in my opinion, Mamdani's a complete fraud. I mean, the people in charge of the NYPD are just cowardice, regardless if that changes anytime soon. Look, everyone knows it's not a matter of if, it's when Issa Abbasi replaces Jessica Tisch at this point, right? Everyone knows this. We told you this before he became the mayor. Like, this is not breaking news. Like, everyone knows at some point Issa Abbasi will replace Jessica Tisch. Is it this week? Is it next week? Possibly. I mean, rumors are heating up, right? But it doesn't matter who's the police commissioner, because they're all the same spineless people. They're going to go along with the lie that, in fact, Zohran Mamdani is bringing you public safety. They're going to go along with the lie that they're revolutionizing policing First Amendment activities, and that they're going to bring in this whole new unit, and they're highly trained, and they're receiving all this training. And you're not going to know what the training is. It's going to be BS. It's going to be fluff. It's going to be nonsense. We gave him this new uniform and this new patch. It's all nonsense, dude. And so my thing is this: the citizens of New York voted to disband the SRG. So disband the SRG. But don't replace it with a similar unit. Don't make it from task force to SRG to now, I don't know, this dialogue unit or whatever you want to call it. No, get rid of all of the tactics, get rid of all of the training, and give the socialists, get the New York City you want. You want the New York City where what did we see over the weekend? We saw ICE being attacked at a hospital where they had to run out and get their prisoner out of there. And now what do you see? You see all the lefties. They're saying that the NYPD violated sanctuary city law. It's like, all right, you know what? Give them the city they want. Give them the city of chaos. They're trying to turn New York City into Seattle, and they've been trying to do this since Bill de Blasio. Eric Adams was no different. He just had a little bit smoother way of going about it. That's it. So my thing is this: don't rebrand them at all. Don't rebrand them at all. Get rid of them. This it's all going to be fluff. Now, is Jessica Tisch going to be the fluff master, or is it going to be Issa Abbasi? That remains to be seen. Who's actually going to disband the SRG? I mean, it's very possible that it's going to be Issa Abbasi. He's going to come in, and this is going to be his new baby. This is what I'm pushing in. It's very, very possible that that's the situation, that we see Jessica Tisch step down. She uses this as a talking point for her future in politics. Let's see what happens. I don't know, but I think the rebrand's a complete joke. I put out a patch yesterday. A lot of people got butthurt about it, and good, get butthurt. I have a whole box of tampons. I'll ship to you. Let me know where to send them to. Because I'm not knocking anybody in the SRG. I'm knocking the leadership of this job. I'm knocking the leadership of this job, and that's what that patch was. It was a make fun of the leadership of the job.
Yeah. Man, I gotta say though that I'm so curious how Abbasi would run things when he gets in there. We know it's gonna be the same thing, but
like a woke
just
tyrant
about the surface level theater.
A woke tyrant. He's all the business. He's the police, but at the same time, he's woke as they come. It's going to be all nonsense. He's going to say one thing in front of the camera, and he's going to be telling guys on the street to go out there and stop and lock up everybody.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a Muslim rise up in the NYPD. So for those that wanted the DEI diversity appearance, it's going to be a Muslim rise up. There's no doubt about it. I'm already hearing about it as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
That's all right. We're race based now, Eric. It doesn't matter. We're race ethnicity based now. That's it. DEI is just changing of hierarchies.
Can Muslims run a mile and a half, or is that anti-Muslim? Just curious.
It's just all hierarchies, dude. If your police commissioner comes in and he's Hispanic, the hierarchy is Hispanic. If the police commissioner comes in and he's black, then the hierarchy is black. If he comes in, he's Muslim. This is what it is. I mean, this is DEI. Instead of equal opportunity, that's what it is. And if you get a white police commissioner, you're going to get a leftist white police commissioner, and they're going to be pushing the black and brown narrative, and everybody else, and they're going to push down on the anti-white nonsense even more.
I think we should have, honestly, to really have effective policing, we should have a gay police commissioner, and everyone has to be gay, because the only way to do proper policing is to know who you slept with the night before. So I think everyone should be gay. That's from now on. If you're straight and heterosexual, you should no longer be in the NYPD. Let's really diversify it. And is that anti-gay if you make them run a mile and a half? I don't know. Could be.
Well, I think that's one of the only ways you're getting a white police commissioner anymore, especially a white male police commissioner.
Chance, yeah.
Yeah, it's just not happening.
Because if you're a white male with cauliflower ears, that could actually hold yourself down. You don't belong in the police department.
Yeah, that I just don't see that happening. No, especially with these. If the next mayor is going to be another Democrat, there's just no way they're going to put a.
Wait a minute, Marlon. John Schell's not going to be the next mayor.
No chance of that happening.
Oh, okay.
Actually, that's him just farming for engagement and for clicks on his social media. We got a lot of that going around,
I know a podcast that does that.
Yeah, a lot of people are doing that now.
Who, the ponytail Judas?
What's that name again?
The ponytail Judas. So what were you saying? What were you saying, Maul? Like what do you think about that, dude? Like, do you think it's going to be Jessica Tisch that actually disbands, or they're going to bring in a new police commissioner that no one knows who it is, but his name's going to be Issa Abbasi from Patterson, New Jersey, and Little Patterson, and he's going to come in and he's going to bring in this new revolutionized strategic First Amendment policing unit? Like, what do you think about that?
Well, first, I don't think Jessica Tisch is going anywhere so easily. I think she's going to use she's going to marshal all her, her associates outside of the public office, in the business community, and her family ties to keep her in that position as long as she can. But I do think if Mamdani had the opportunity to, she'd be gone. She would have been gone like last week. Okay, we all see that like a mile away. He telegraphed that like a mile away, But even with her there, I do think that the rebrand could have happened underneath her, because she is, like Eric says, she is the queen of rebrand, and I think she would love it. Again, I think her being PC is a vanity project, and I think she would love nothing better than to on paper or in front of media, push a narrative that she's brought some revolutionary idea to SRG and in the rebrand. But yeah, I think she's not going to be easy to get rid of, because I think her family we talked about her family before and how powerful they are. But keep in mind also that she is very powerful herself. She's on the New York City Federal Reserve Board, and she's on the Council on Foreign Relations. She's a buddy with the Clintons. She's a buddy with Trump, with Trump's kids, Ivanka. So she's don't underestimate her influence, So
I think that's a great point. So I think that terminology is kayfabe. I think is spot on for what's going on here. I think that Jessica Tisch obviously she's being advised by Bratton and Kelly. She knows damn well that how important SRG is there, or before it was rebranded as task force, it's important to have a specialized unit that can be mobilized at any time, right? Mobility is extremely important in policing. And she knows damn well it's important. And so does every active chief. So this idea that they're all playing pretend that it's going away and they're going to hide it under another name, honestly, it disgusts me at this point that the active chiefs up to police commissioner are willing to do that. They're willing to play pretend. Hey, it's gone. You don't see it anymore, right? But we still have it. And they all go out and play this game. And as John said, great point. Someone will be appointed as the new chief, and they'll all have this dance and play this game and lie to your face and play poker as they always do. And I say the queen of rebrand. It's exactly what it is. And it won't be any different. What will be different, we'll have different uniforms. They'll have less equipment than they have right now, demilitarize them. They won't have batons. They won't have those bike helmets. They won't have those bikes. They won't have tactical type uniforms. They probably won't even have what I think probably will be removed is the tactical weapons, the long weapons. I believe those will be removed also, right? A softer, cuddly appearance. And that's what I think what we're getting to, right? That's the rebrand. And that's why I say every time we get a rebrand, it's the same mission with less toys. So how do you do this job? For instance, right, we see anti-crime. We removed the plain clothes. We gave them a quasi type uniform, and we removed the necessary tools for them to actually do the anti-crime work, but go out there and do it. Let's just get those numbers, right? That's what they're doing. They're playing this game, right? It's almost like show and tell. We're going to show you this quasi-uniform, but we're going to tell you something different. And that's what they're doing. And it's a complete lie. That's why I think Molly is spot on when you say kayfabe. It's WWE right in front of your face. And everyone's willing to play pretend. And I say in the upper echelon of the NYPD. Now, clearly, I just want to piggyback on what John said. If you are in the SRG right now or in the NYPD with boots on the ground, and if you're offended by this patch that John made as far as the dialogue unit, then you're not paying attention. Because it's no shade on you. This is what the leadership is going to do to you. That's exactly what they're going to do. You will still be expected to do the mission of SRG, except you'll have a pink uniform, maybe a ball gag. You won't have your baton. You won't have your bike helmet, but you'll have all these less toys, but expected to do the same job. So what they do is every time they do a rebrand, they tie one arm behind the back and they tell you, go out there and do the job. And that's why this patch here is actually supporting you and showing what they're actually doing to you. So don't suffer from the Stockholm syndrome. And when you get rebranded, say, I'm going to go out there and do the same job. I don't need the same tools. Well, you need the tools before and still had difficulty. How do you expect to do it now? And that's what the point is. John, what's up, brother?
Yeah, now Frank Reagan says he heard that Rodney Harrison's replacing Tisch. Well, let me tell you something. You heard that from a ponytailed Judas who pushes bullshit for the Guardians Association and his race baiting attorney. That is what's called influence peddling. That's putting their guy out there and starting that rumor to try to get him in there. That's a bunch of bullshit. It's going to be Issa Abbasi. And that's it. I was laughing my ass off when I saw them all pushing that. Oh, we can't have this guy. And then they started dogging all the Muslim executives, past and present. And I'm like, come on, you know, but ignoring the fact about Rodney Timesheets Harrison, right? He didn't have any issues, right? No, none. You know, yeah, but he got the Giglio Beach killer, not his guys, right? Yeah, okay. Spare me. Spare me with that, you know. So yeah. This was the patch I put out yesterday as a joke. I said, look, I recommend this, and the reason I did this is to show that you don't see an SRG officer there. No, you see a white shirt, white male politician waving a white flag, taking a knee before the crowd, right? And we named it the Strategic Dialogue Unit, right? Because what Tisch recently do? She sent all her community affairs team and all of them out to Columbus, Ohio to meet with their dialogue unit that handled 30 protests last year, as opposed to the SRG, which handled over 4,500. But they were only deployed at like less than 5% of them. But meanwhile, they were on standby for every single one of them. So it was a complete joke. So somebody had reached out in the background and they said, yeah, I don't really like that patch. It's not an accurate depiction. I like this one better. And so they made this. And I was like, oh, yeah, you know what? You are right. And so this really hones in on it. It's the old, pale, male, and stale NYPD chief taking the knee so that he could get his last 2% for his last year, and he could get his big walkout, and he could be aligned with whoever the power structure is in One Police Plaza and City Hall at that time. And this was, so we didn't actually make this one. This was sent in. We made the basis of it. But I think this is a more accurate depiction of it. So it's not a knock on the SRG. It's not disrespectful towards the SRG. This is the reality of the NYPD today. And what are they going to do when they rebrand the SRG? They're going to, the reason I use the pink is because 100% the uniform is going to be softer. 100% there's going to be less equipment that's going to be used. If you look at the Curb Act that Councilman, one of Zohran Mamdani's closest allies, that he's proposed, the Curb Act actually restricts the NYPD from deploying pepper spray in order to gain control at moments of civil unrest during crowd control situations. So you're going to remove the NYPD's ability to deploy pepper spray. He also wants to ban using bikes. We've seen the NYPD bike, the bike unit. They come out, they wear like those turtleized uniforms. They're called like a turtle shell. It's basically like soft armor where they're going out, and they basically act as moving barriers to try to control the crowd. Chiosei and the Curb Act want to eliminate the NYPD's ability to do that. So while I'm joking that I think that this should be the patch of the newly founded SRG, ultimately, in my head, this symbolizes the NYPD for the last 13 years. This is what I see when I see the last. This is the honor and loyalty and the courtesy and the professionalism and respect, the moral integrity and the cowardice. The moral cowardice, I should say, that's been showed by most of these men that are in leadership is disgusting, in my opinion. They might be big, tough guys. They might be able to fight. They might go out in the gym. They might even go out and make a lot of arrests. But when it comes time to actually have a spine and stand up to City Hall or stand on principles and integrity, they've shown the complete inability to do that. The only thing you can't see in the photo, but I will tell you, he is castrated. He's able to bend. He could do a split if he really wanted to, because there are no balls in those pants.
And what about one thing that's also missing from this picture, by the way, which I love it, Pat, is great. You're missing a pair of ankles. I want to see his ankles because, some people have suffered 3/4 injuries. Tough. The ankles take a beating when you're on your knees for some reason.
And Frank, I'm married and I have 2 daughters, so I have plenty of boxes of tampons.
Yeah.
So if you need, I could send them to you. When you're doing your worship of Marina at his statue.
And my visual zone, if you haven't figured out, I'm actually parroting this idiocy. So no, coming out of the closet, brother.
Yeah. That meme is that image is spot on. I wish I had thought of it. It's genius. Shout out to whoever sent that to John, because that's spot on.
They shall remain anonymous.
Yeah.
Oh, we're not gonna release the source so that they get in trouble. Good.
That's spot on. It perfectly describes the NYPD of the last couple of years. Yeah,
that's the real deal right there.
Yeah. And again, the main issue here is that these guys, they don't want to push back. They know what they're being told is wrong. It doesn't work. But nobody wants to push back and tell them, hey, listen, this isn't the way. Nobody wants to push back against these academics, these liberals, these progressives, right? Because I think they're even worse than being liberal, and all these people who really kind of in a lot of ways run and 1PP behind the scenes. It's the people that you never hear talked about. It's those academics, consultants maybe, or people from academia. In fact, we have an entire bureau of these people in the Strategic Initiatives Bureau, which we've talked about before. But the problem is these chiefs, a lot of them who were boots on the ground when the city was in dire straits during the crack era, right? They know what works and what doesn't, okay? And yet they don't want to push back against these people, okay? Because they somehow on their way up to getting those extra stars, they lost their balls, and you know, they value what what the academic thinks over what the streets have actually told them in their experience.
So here's the bottom line, right? You could change the name, you could change the patch, you could remove their tools, their toys, which is what they're going to do. And I don't know if you guys agree, John and Marlon, but I do think that you're going to see the rebranded SRG not have the same long firearms. Obviously, the guys that have it right now, I think they'll still have it. But as new people come into the unit, I think they're going to phase it out. I think they're going to phase out the long weapons also. And so ultimately these guys will be expected, guys and girls that are in the SRG or new rebranded name, if it's the dialogue unit, whatever they come up with, whatever softer version, they'll be expected to carry out the same mission without those toys. And that's the problem. It shows, again, how cops are treated like peasants, like second-class citizens. Go out there, do the same job, play the game, but we're going to give you softer material. And exactly that, what John told you, the bike unit that's out there in response to protest and chaos are armored up to protect them because it gets chaotic. It gets chaotic. I was there. I was there at the riots where they were throwing feces and throwing bottles. And even I watched a couple of idiots try to pick up a wheelbarrow, which is why that iconic picture came out where I got on top of a car to get a better vantage point to see exactly what was going on. And that's what we're doing. We're removing the tools and the toys from the SRG unit that are necessary to do the job effectively, but yet they'll still be expected to carry out the same mission. Let's not forget why SRG was actually implemented anyway. It was actually for one of the first few times in the NYPD, in my opinion, actually rebranded into something better, because SRG was rebranded from the old task force. And what is task force? Task force is exactly that. It's a task for a force to be mobilized, to have the ability to be mobile in the city. And you need that to actually, if we have a protest that turns into something chaotic and the patrol cops have to then get prepared, get set up, and they get mobilized, it's way too much time that we lose, and things just get heated up and the fires get ignited and we're responding late. And it's really tough to de-escalate these situations when they're already escalated. So SRG actually was implemented as a better version of task force to respond to chaos, to respond to protest. Initially, it was meant to respond to protest, just as task force was meant for respond to protests and to be mobilized for missing persons. SRG became a multifaceted unit with specialized training. It's an actual better version. So think about that. We have Mayor Zohran Mamdani who's now stripping away, and these chiefs, active chiefs up to police commissioner, are agreeing that the better version of task force that had more training, even more specialized, to respond in a mobile manner to protest, to riots, to missing persons, a multifaceted unit, is now being stripped away into a version that is less specialized than task force was. So they're bringing us back to disarmament. And that's why I agree, John, if anything, then just get rid of it. But to rebrand it, to put these cops out there to do the same mission with less tools and less training, just shows the lack of care for police officers, for the boots on the ground. And that's what that patch symbolizes. It symbolizes the leadership sitting on your head while they're on their knees.
Yeah, absolutely. So this happened over the weekend at Wyckoff Hospital. I believe it's in the 8-3 precinct. And ICE brings a man into custody to the hospital. Somebody tips off the lefties. They go insane. Cops obviously get called, right, to restore order. And now all the lefties are going nuts, right? They're going nuts. They're like, oh, they assisted ICE. The NYPD violated sanctuary city law. You see ICE now dragging this guy that's injured out, and they're doing it because it's really not a safe environment. I mean, it's insanity. It's literal chaos. They're not trying to do it to hurt the guy. They're trying to do it to keep him safe. Poorly executed, in my opinion. Poorly executed because intentionally, if for this one situation, the strategic response group was not there. Now, this guy's a good actor. He's going to get paid a lot of money. And so, that's what happens with poor planning, right? When you have poor execution. And this just shows me that they knew that the city of New York and City Hall knew what a media frenzy this was going to be. And they knew how the NYPD was going to be trashed by our elected officials and by the news media. So they decided to just basically leave them out there on their own and not bring in the proper resources to restore order in the streets and properly, safely, and smoothly transport this injured prisoner. So they really failed all these guys. Anyone in leadership that was there, from sergeant all the way up to whoever was working that night, chief of department, police commissioner, whoever it was, literally failed. So you see, SRG gets there at some point, but they're really in the background. They're not making arrests, and it's complete insanity. Complete insanity, again, just shows the incompetence in leadership in the NYPD and their unwillingness. And this just shows you the fact that SRG wasn't brought in right away and the fact that arrests weren't made just shows you exactly the style that they're looking to bring in. And that, in fact, that rebrand, I'm not saying it's tomorrow. It might be, but it's not far off from it. We're not making it to next year with the SRG in there. They're not bringing in any new classes of new people. They're not conducting any new style of SRG training. They're probably in the process as we speak right now of revamping every single thing, from the patch to the training to the equipment. And this is just a highlight of that, because you see every night since Mamdani's been sworn in, the SRG has been deployed and has been effective at restoring order when they're called in. Unfortunately, they're usually called in way too late, like is the example here too. And so I just think it's really imminent at this point. And again, it's all fluff, because it's truly not the disband that all of you lefties voted for. It is a rebrand, and you're going to get the same exact product and a cool little neat public relations campaign, and you're all going to buy it hook, line, sinker. But your rent hasn't been frozen. Your buses aren't going to be fast. They certainly aren't going to be free. Your grocery stores aren't free either. You're getting more affordable groceries in 2029. And nothing that he said that he was going to bring in, the Department of Community Safety, revolutionizing policing, nothing that he brought in, not one of his campaign promises will come to fruition, other than a dumbed, slight down version of universal child care. And that's just going to be piggybacking off of what already exists with the universal pre-K. So it's a complete joke. He's going to be a failure, just like Eric Adams prior to him, and just like Bill de Blasio prior to him. The only thing that Eric Adams accomplished in his term was lowering the overall headcount of the NYPD and weakening it much further than it was, and disgracing the NYPD, and leaving it in a much worse situation than it was prior to him coming in. And the only thing Bill de Blasio could hang his hat on is that he brought you universal pre-K. So, I mean, just complete failure and incompetence. NYPD leadership and City Hall at this point should not be differentiated from each other.
Yeah, I didn't see this angle. That's a complete shit show, man. Can we talk about? I mean, I saw a lieutenant over there. I mean, could nobody tell ICE to move back the car into the driveway and then take the guy?
Ridiculous. Like, dumbest thing I've ever seen.
I'm like, I just don't know. Is anybody in charge?
Great point, brother. Great point.
If I was a cop in that detail,
they helped him. Like, God forbid, they were like, go get that car, or they held the prisoner. Like, we'll hold him. Go get your car and back it up. God forbid they did that, Marlon. They would be calling for these cops to get arrested. And this was the overriding concern of the supervisors on that scene. It's like, we can't help. We'll violate sanctuary city law. And it's so far from the truth. It's not even funny. It's so far from the truth.
But it's disgusting to watch. It really is. It's sickening at this point.
Yeah. I would have lost my mind as a cop there on this shit show. It's like there's nobody in charge, nobody giving directions. I mean, man, and you know what's even more stupider? the idea that this is somehow better than SRG on the scene, taking command of of the protest and using the disorder control tactics that they've been trained in. Okay, this is supposed to be better than that, right? This is. I mean, Tish, we know your people are watching this. Come on now. You think this looks good? Does this look good for the NYPD? Does this make us look professional? I mean, look at this. It's a complete shit show in the back. And
what do you also don't see, right? I mean, there was a point where every time there was a protest that turned to a riot, you would see a majority of the people take action was the white shirts. You don't even see the white shirts anymore because they don't even want to be there, because exactly what John said, because it's more important that they support leftist politicians with the sanctuary city ideas that actually helped ICE and help the cops that are there that are now surrounded in a very vulnerable, precarious situation, and not getting it to a point of settlement and actually restoring peace and order. But no longer, because it's more important that becking to the politicians. So I don't agree with defund the police. But if this is how we're going to treat our police and we're going to disarm them, then we might as well defund them. Because I don't want to see the boots on the ground in a vulnerable position that they are. I'd rather see them not there. It's absolutely disgusting. It's painful to watch at this point.
I mean, think of it. Think how bad that is. You have the crowd that, first of all, they're blocking the entrance for ambulance to come. Forget about ICE. It ain't about ICE, okay? You're gonna have all these people surround the hospital and prevent the emergency room from being accessed by the ambulance. I mean, come on now, no, there's no boss on that scene who could take charge and tell these guys to clear the sidewalk. I just can't believe that we've come to this point, and this is supposed to look better than SRG, being on the scene. A melee that. Things are so screwy that a melee is supposed to be better than disorder control. It's we're living in a backwards world right now,
Yeah, this is even far beyond melee. I mean, the cops are actually surrounded. They're in such a horrible tactical position. And I agree. That was the first thing I thought to myself is, why is ICE actually in that position with the car? It just puts them in a more vulnerable position. And I really honestly feel sorry for the boots on the ground, because they're going to do their job to the best of their ability. But with a lack of leadership, it just makes them even more vulnerable. And they don't even know what their mission is right now. Obviously, the mission at this point, they have no choice, is try to restore order and keep themselves safe. But where is that white shirt apparatus that was involved in the protests and riots that we saw before? They're not even there. I mean, that's a lieutenant. That's not the white shirts. I'm talking about the chiefs that were always present at these riots. They're not even there. John, what are your thoughts?
Nah, it's pure incompetence, dude. I mean, just watching. Look at this angle. Like, why is this cop? Why is he out there by himself, basically? And thankfully, somebody seen him. Right? There's a guy cop and a girl cop come rushing over, and they start pulling people off of him. Like, that cop was severely outnumbered. And that just shows the lack of planning, the lack of competence, and the lack of leadership. Now, look, I know that this happened to be a pop-up event where it was like, ICE got brought a perp to the hospital. The NYPD doesn't know about it because they can't coordinate with them, right? And now somebody tips off all these crazies, and it's a pop-up First Amendment peaceful protest, even though what I see is a riot, and I see potential for manslaughter charges by blocking a hospital and blocking people from gaining access to an emergency room on all these individuals. So I see a full-blown riot there, and I don't see a competent response from the NYPD. And the reason you don't see a competent response from the NYPD is because, let's face it, bosses today lead from behind. They don't lead from the front. They step back. They don't know what they're doing. And basically it leads the troops in a really incompetent manner. So cops today are left out there really to fend and make decisions for themselves because, hey, they got discretion now. And so what the overriding concern was for the NYPD that evening was optics, not public safety, not competently restoring order, not keeping that emergency room open, not bringing this situation to a successful close very easily, which could have very easily been done. There were many ways to take that individual out of the hospital. and into a secure facility. It didn't even have to necessarily be into a car. We could have removed him in an ambulance. We could have removed him in a lot of different ways, in a hospital bed. There were a lot of ways to get that individual out without making it a media shit show. And obviously, the planning and the thought process and the street smarts and the intelligence has really been ripped out of the NYPD at this point. I don't really know what to say about it further than that, but I'll just say what occurred at Wyckoff Hospital was not a violation of sanctuary city law, but it was a violation of the oath that NYPD leadership has sworn to protect New Yorkers and to stand up for their rank and file officers. Instead, they left their officers and sent them out there really to be used as pawns, to be used as political pawns for the fire. And I don't hear anyone defending them online. The only one I hear is Bob Stool Bob. That's it. Hopefully he's not doing a 100 proof interview this morning on Fox and Friends. But besides us, I don't hear anybody else. He basically just eats off anything we say anyway. So it's not that, but at least he has the balls to come out and say it in retirement. So I'll give him that. I don't know if it's liquid courage that's giving him those balls, but whatever it is, it is. And I really don't know what to say at this point, but this is really a breakdown of the NYPD. It's the NYPD, like I've been saying since 2021, is the political arm of City Hall, and cops are just being used as pawns. And I mean, this is the perfect example of it. You see it right here, and you see their unwillingness to call in SRG, the unwillingness to utilize SRG, and the unwillingness to really have competent supervisors out there. This never happens. I don't know. Like I'm watching this and I'm furious. You know what I mean? This never happens. Like I don't know what this is. This isn't the type of policing that I know. I just don't know.
Hold on a second. Yeah, I something that's not been talked about here is I also think I saw a post by Reynoso, the Brooklyn Borough president, where he's talking about he's promoting a ICE. It's called ICE Out of New York City, which would be today at 10 a.m. Wyckoff and Stanhope, basically around where this happened, right? It's not been talked about, but I think this is also a distraction, right? I personally think that the politicians in the city also need a distraction to keep these young people preoccupied and not paying attention to what's actually happening with the city right now. I can't believe that after this happened, this guy's promoting another protest in that same corner. I mean, I think there's so much going on with city council. We've talked about it before with like the speeding law and the fact that the budget is now delayed, that I think they want all of us focused on all of this, the back and forth between ICE and these crazy leftists, right? I can't help but think of that when I see him talking about it. And also Mamdani, by the way, talked about this. He was asked a question and he said something to the effect of ICE is, how ICE is wrong and all that. And I just think this is exactly what they hope for right now, that we get, young people especially get distracted and are not paying attention to what they're doing right now, which is not in the long-term best interest of them.
I think honestly, we're at a point where I blame the politicians, the politics, and the optics on both sides, because ICE is put in situations where they're supposed to do aggressive enforcement in sanctuary cities where they know damn well that these local police departments are under weak leadership, and where their local police departments are restricted from any cooperation. So I blame both sides, and then I also blame obviously the weak politicians on the left in these sanctuary cities that actually restrict their federal partners from actually having conversations that actually maintain order, right? communication breaks barriers when it comes to relationships. It comes to jobs. It breaks barriers on all levels, and that includes keeping a city safe, having ICE and the NYPD coordinate together. So I blame both sides, because even though New York City is a sanctuary city, I blame the politics, because sending ICE in there doing aggressive enforcement and not trying to cooperate with the NYPD at all all it does is it puts the boots on the ground in a vulnerable situation and makes it more precarious for them and puts their lives in danger every time. So we took an oath to the Constitution, and that's for ICE, and that's also for the NYPD, even though they're separate entities, and that's to put life first, to preserve life. And preserving life should mean also the boots on the ground of the NYPD and also the ICE law enforcement themselves. And that's why I blame the politics on both sides. We have aggressive ICE enforcement and also the NYPD that's been stripped of actually having any cooperation. So ICE, even though they're sanctuary cities, they should still make that call. Even though it's make that call, hey, we're doing enforcement in this area. We're letting the police department know where we're taking action. We have prisoners that need to go to the hospital. And you know what? Even though the sanctuary city is unwilling to cooperate with you, I still believe ICE should make every attempt to cooperate with the local police department for the benefit of the boots on the ground. Not for the politicians and not for the leadership, for the boots on the ground that deserve that coordination, cooperation, communication to keep them safe and to actually maintain order so it doesn't get out of control. And we see that melee, we see that scene that we see right there in the A3. Out of control because communication breaks barriers, and the lack of communication only escalates situation. So for all these politicians that talk about de-escalate, one of the keys to de-escalation is communication. So it's the politicians on the left and the right that are actually igniting the flame and making this fight far worse.
Yeah, I agree. It's coming from the feds too, you know.
Exactly.
I mean, they didn't. Nobody was thinking how bad it looks for them to drag the guy out and have the guy lying down like that. You know, how the optics of it. You know, two ICE agents with wearing masks. You know, nobody's thinking how that's going to drive these wackos into a frenzy once they see that. You know, it's it's both sides using it as distraction, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I like, to be fair to the ICE agents though, dude, they never had to deal with this, bro. They don't think about the optics the way we do. You know what I mean? Like, and you would, like, just think about it. If you weren't aware of how insane policing was in New York City, you wouldn't think about it either. I mean, I'm sure there's guys on here that work in southern states and out west, and they think we're insane, the things we're talking about. You know what I mean? Because they don't even know. Like, what do you mean? The guy's in prison. I had to get him out of there. There was a rowdy crowd. Like, what are you guys worried about the optics for of it? Get him out of that. You know, like, what are you talking about? You know, and so a lot of the way we think was because of the people who led the department and trained us in that aspect of it, and because we've dealt in these high profile, in the media capital of the world. You know, it's like being a Yankee or comparing yourself to like. And I'm not knocking nice, and if you guys get mad, I apologize, but it just is what it is. Like when you work for the New York City Police Department, you work for the Yankees. You are in the highest media capital in the world. Everything you do is going to be scrutinized 8 ways to Sunday. Optics plays a huge role in policing. Now, it shouldn't go before public safety, like what we're seeing today. But it's an overriding part of our mission is optics. And, you know, that has to be trained into people in order to operate in that environment, because you will not last long in New York City if doing things like that. You won't. I mean, look, they're calling for all these cops to be fired today, just for trying to restore order. Just for trying to restore order. You know, and you have Antonio Reynoso, he's saying abolish ICE. ICE wouldn't have to be out there, you know, and we've said this before, and we've talked about this at length, so I won't go into it deeply, but ICE is only out there because of sanctuary state and sanctuary city law. If that was removed, the New York City Police Department, as they arrest people for crimes, would be notifying ICE when they have ICE detainers, and you wouldn't have ICE conducting these type of operations out on your streets. You wouldn't have ICE acting as local municipal law enforcement. And that the only reason you have that today is a result of sanctuary law and sanctuary state. So it's the Democrats that actually want ICE doing this. And it's the inability of the Republicans to properly communicate that and to properly hold these states accountable for violating federal law and for putting law enforcement in this situation in a Republican-controlled Congress, in a Republican-controlled Senate and House, as well as seat of the president. They've failed miserably. So, yeah, 100%. This is, again, a politically created crisis. All of this. None of this has to happen. You didn't need that scene yesterday. That scene could have been easily as that guy got arrested for one time and he was handed over in a detainer and nobody even knew what happened because it was all done through phone calls while he was already arrested and there was no media tour out there and there was no paid agitators and there was none of these groups out there doing this. So, and again, I'd love to know who tipped who because it seems like these protesters are always one step ahead of ICE. And I wouldn't be shocked if it in fact it was coming directly out of ICE. I wouldn't be because it just seems they're consistently getting beat to the punch all of the time, and it doesn't make sense to me. Now, is it possible that someone in the hospital seen them? Yeah, because look how you dressed. Again, there's no way, what I mean. Anyone that's in the hospital that day sees it. It's not like you're just vocalizing, hey, listen, we're ICE. We got this prisoner here. He got a little injured. We're bringing him in for treatment. No, you're walking in, and you should be moving in a much different way. And if you're gonna bring somebody into a New York City place, like into a New York City hospital around New York City, or you have to go where something that's going to be high profile, especially when you're in the commie corridor of Brooklyn. You should probably be coordinating with the NYPD to move freely and have the NYPD ready on guard for what's going to come of that. Because this shouldn't be a shock to anybody that wherever ICE is going to get spotted in New York City, you literally have almost 90% of the electeds in New York City telling you, here's the number to call so that we could go mobilize and protest every time we see ICE. So this should not be a shock. Wherever ICE goes, there will be protests to follow. It's not hard. So there needs to be some level of coordination for the NYPD to keep public safety. That is not violation of sanctuary state or sanctuary city law. And anyone that's telling you that is lying to your face. And if you have a politician lying to your face, it should be removed from office.
Yeah, I think it is coming from ICE, itself, because how all of a sudden you get, what looks like at least 100 people out there, 100 protesters, probably more, How do you get them all of a sudden to be mobilized there? It just that's not something that happens naturally, in my opinion. I think both sides of the political aisle are using this as a distraction. And I think the only way we get to what they're doing with say Palantir and the surveillance state is if they need a problem, and the problem will be all this chaos in the cities, in my opinion. And again, this is quite a nice distraction to prevent people from digging into the fact that gas is now what $6, premium is now what $6 a gallon. And again, this really hasn't hit the grocery prices, the grocery hard yet, but it will at some point. And again, politicians need people not to be paying attention to that. Otherwise, they're going to be angry at them. They need people infighting and, fighting with ICE or fighting with police instead of paying attention to what the problem really is in terms of affecting their families, and their life. So I think it's coming from both sides. And I can't see any other way how these people would find out that ICE is going to Wyckoff, even if ICE showed up there. I mean, how many phone calls could the people in Wyckoff make to contact their friends and relatives to let people know that ICE is at that particular hospital? I don't know. It just seems, this doesn't seem organic to me,
It does. And with that being said, I want to say that, again, the other reason why I put emphasis that I believe it's both sides, and that the politicians on both sides want the optics to push a specific agenda, because we all know best. Yes, does federal law enforcement have the authority? They do have the authority. And what John just said before is absolutely right. But they don't have the experience. It's best when federal law enforcement is guided by local municipalities in their efforts, because the local municipalities in any city, especially New York City, know the streets. They have the experience on the streets. And that's why I blame the politicians on both sides, because the leftist politicians are, with the sanctuary city laws, the sanctuary state laws, restrict the boots on the ground, restrict the leadership, because the leadership just cows down to it, from cooperating with their federal law enforcement partners, and then pushing it on the right, because the politicians on the right know that the federal law enforcement does have the authority, but they don't have the experience on these streets as the local law enforcement. So restricting both sides from cooperating each other puts them at a risk, but it also puts the residents at a risk. Every time you have a melee like this, these riots can turn out bad for the people that are actually rioting, but also innocent people in these streets as they're committing crimes. This is not a peaceful protest. This is a crime. They're obstructing traffic. They're obstructing the vehicular pedestrian traffic, making it unsafe for anybody that's in this area, make it unsafe for the cops, unsafe for ICE. So I blame both sides. And I agree with you, Marlon. There's no doubt about it that I believe this is also manufactured. How does this happen? How does this turn into a melee so fast, so quick with ICE? Especially just transporting to prison, which is pretty much a low-key thing when you're transporting a prisoner, whether it's a hospital or to a central booking location. It's very low-key. How did they find out so quickly, even with a phone call? So it just shows the irresponsibility on both sides. Again, I'll say that I agree, John. I said this quite often. I believe that federal law enforcement, has a different mission. They have a different goal. I'm not taking away from their ability, but their training and their forte is not on local streets. However, this has been going on for months right now, so I don't excuse them anymore. They've been in New York City. They've been in big cities throughout this entire country, so they know damn well how things get. And so that the fact that the upper echelon of ICE is still pushing these guys out there in these situations shows the agenda with the politicians has failed on both sides. Yes, if this was last week or the week before, I can understand. But this is going on for months right now. Excuse me, where ICE has been in different cities and situations have gone bad. So there's no excuse.
Yeah, like my thing is this. Like, I'm not saying that I don't believe that it was 100% ICE leaking it either. Like, there is that possibility. My thing is this. However that information gets out there is irrelevant to me. The NYPD should have a competent response to it, and the NYPD should have a competent response to it, because ICE should notify them ahead of time. And that's my thing. Like, if you're going to go to a hospital, you should know exactly what's going to happen. If you're going to go anywhere public and you're going to conduct a raid, at this point, the NYPD should know about it. And I don't believe that if you're going to conduct a raid on New York City streets, that is coordinating with the NYPD to ensure that, in fact, this insanity can't happen. Because what's going to happen here is we're going to have another Minnesota. If we're going to leave these guys out there and an American citizen's going to get shot, and then it's going to be a disaster. And rightfully so. I mean, there's nobody else out here. There's nobody else out here. This is ICE. There's 2 guys from ICE here, yet there's 100 cops here. So I hear what you're saying. Like, you don't excuse them because they've been out here, but what's completely different about ICE than the other agencies is that they're sending people from all over the country to New York City. It's not like, oh, yeah, you live in Staten Island, so you potentially are working in New York City that night. These guys could be from anywhere in the country. And, they're moving around. They're working together with people they never worked with. They're unsupervised. It's a big problem, dude. It's a big problem. They're not municipal law enforcement officers. And I think the NYPD has shown the absolute inability to not worry about the politics and put public safety ahead about that. And I'm talking about the NYPD leadership. You know, I'm not blaming any single cop here. It's the leadership. It is, you are led by a sheep. You are led by sheep at the very top levels. Whether you're a competent cop, you're a competent lieutenant or a competent sergeant, you are put in situations to fail over and over and over again. And until you realize that, you know, you guys are kind of on your own at this point. You know, like the frontline supervisors should be a lot smarter with what they're doing. And if you send me and my guys here, we're moving as a unit. There is no way we are taking independent action. We're moving as a unit. I'm going to be supervising the ICE agents as a sergeant because it's not happening. You're not just dragging this guy out of the hospital. Absolutely not. You're not doing it. Why? Because it's going to be me and my guys and all that stuff that are going to be on the line. You know, you're not doing it. You're not moving in. You need us to get you out of here. Then you're moving when we tell you to move. You're going to react when I tell you to react. And it's not happening here. And it's not happening here because, again, like I said, every single thing is optics here. Every single thing. So I don't know how this gets fixed. I don't see it getting fixed. I think what you're going to see is you're going to see like what happened in Minnesota. You're going to see someone getting shot on New York City streets. Or you might see them back off and stop conducting operations in New York City. It's one or the other. It's one or the other. You're going to see an American citizen get shot that's protesting, and it'll be deservingly so. But you know, the optics of it'll be horrible, and it'll be all because they were set up for failure by their leadership, and New York City's being sold out.
Yeah. Well, you know, when I mentioned optics, I didn't mean optics for the sake of, you know, in how NYPD looks at it, you know, where like you're worried about the optics might get you locked up, you know, or the DA to prosecute you or something, you know. I was talking more about the optics in the fact that you're surrounded by literal frenzied wackos. Okay, you bring that guy out there, you in that manner, and these people are going to go even crazier. Okay, I'm talking about the optics in the fact that, you know, we don't have the numbers, and these people are already nuts. What are they? What state is it going to drive them to when they see you dragging out this guy, you know, like that? Find some alternate way to get him in the car and get the hell out of there as quickly as possible without you know, escalating the situation, not for the sake of optics, but for the sake of you're outnumbered out there, you know. So that's what I was referring to. And, you know, in this case, if you're a supervisor, you got to do something, you know. There are pictures later on where you see cops just standing around out there, and you see that massive crowd that they're, you know, that's facing them, and you see cops just standing out there. I made a post about it in that I said that, you know, I brought up again my complaint with that 8-point cap and how I think cops should have caps. But the reason why I brought that up is because cops are standing around there, and to me, it's just waiting for airmail to come thrown at you, and nobody has a helmet on. Nobody, I mean, few people have the 8-point cap on, and the 8-point cap is not going to save you when a bottle gets thrown to your head. I mean, neither is a baseball cap, right? But at least it's a little more protection than the 8-point cap. Okay. And there are things you could put underneath it, you know, but I see cops just standing out there, and it's like, what are we doing? You know, are we clearing the place? Are we waiting to get injured here? You know, and this is why, like, supervisors, you got to do something. I mean, what are we just gonna stand around and hope this problem solves itself? No, you got to tell guys to clear the sidewalk and get these people out of here, you know, or start throwing some people in cuffs and getting them out of there. I just don't. I see that, and I'm like, where's the leadership? Who's in charge here? You know, where's the boss? You know, the lieutenant just walking around, and come on, guy, come on. Somebody got to take charge of that before cops get hurt or a civilian gets hurt.
No, I agree with you, but I don't put any blame on the cops because, for one, we're not in the police department anymore, so we don't know what they're being told at roll calls. We don't know what kind of mission statement they're getting as far as when ICE is on the scene. I can only imagine And my guess, based on my observations, is that it's been pumped into their heads that they can't cooperate with ICE. They heard it. They hear it on mainstream media. They hear it on this network. And they're, I'm sure, I don't know, but I'm sure they're being informed at work at roll call. I'm sure there's some literature being disseminated that they can't cooperate with ICE. So I don't put any blame on the cops in a very vulnerable situation because they don't know what the mission is. I put the blame completely on the leadership. So, John, I'm going to agree with you. I approve this message. That's why I said you don't see the white shirt apparatus that you would see at these other protests and riots. And there should be chiefs there. There should be captains and above giving specific direction. That's to me, that's not cooperating with ICE. If you want to play your game about sanctuary cities, that is maintaining, restoring order, preserving life. That is your job. At that point, they should have taken action. There's only 2 ICE agents said, listen, stand back with your perp. We will get the situation under control. And once we get it under control, then you can do your transport. That's where I agree with you, John. It's the white shirts that could have taken action. That's not cooperating with ICE. That is getting the streets back to where they need to be, maintaining order and taking action and taking control of the city. That's what the leadership did. But instead, they balked. They didn't even show up and put the cops in more of a situation. That's why, again, my disappointment is not Zohran Mamdani. It's not Eric Adams and former Mayor Bill de Blasio. I'm disappointed that they were elected, but I'm disappointed in the leadership that has played this game of WWE or Kayfabe, or whatever you want to refer to it as, and playing this game of pretend and not showing up and not giving the cops a mission. That is not cooperating with ICE. That's restoring order. That's what they should have did, and they failed. So that's why, John, that picture, whoever made it, is fantastic. It's a fat guy on his knees standing on top of the cops. That's what it should be. The only thing that should be added in there is the fat guy on his knees, and underneath his knees should be a couple of cops laying on the ground gasping for air because they're kneeling right on the cops' heads. It's exactly what they're doing. While they're kneeling, sucking up to the politicians, but standing on top of the cops. Disgusting.
Yeah. Quick housekeeping before we go on. I saw somebody in there mention something about dialogue policing, and the thing is, I don't think we brought this up, but so you guys who are just tuning in understand what dialogue policing is, right? We talked about it a couple episodes ago that the NYPD and a couple city officials went to Columbus to take lessons from their police, right, and their city about how they're going to change the manner at which they protest, they police protests. They have something called dialogue policing, which is, again, I'm still trying to figure it out because when I read anything about it, it sounds like a bunch of mumbo jumbo from academics, a bunch of bullshit, Come on, look at this. I bet you if I will read this a couple times, I could shorten this into
What's
like
their
2
mission
sentences,
statement? Is that it?
Well, this is just one abstract from a paper about it. I forgot which NGO I got this from, but they're talking about dialogue policing. What struck me was all the language in here. It's like what the hell are you talking about? But that's the thing about this entire thing, right? It's like a bunch of mumbo jumbo when it's really not that complicated. Okay, policing ain't that complicated. It's not. But this is what they want to bring to New York City. Okay, it's a bunch of academic mumbo jumbo, which is ill-defined from what I see so far. But they want to change SRG into a dialogue policing unit to police protests, and it's happening in Columbus, which, by the way, doesn't even have a third of the people in the city, right? In our city is much bigger. Their metropolitan area, if memory serves me, has barely 1 million people in it, right? Actually, no. Yes, barely 1 million people in it. And like I said before, we have like 2.7 million people in Brooklyn alone. Okay, so why are we taking lessons from a city that doesn't have the scale of our problems? But this is happening because, as I said before, Columbus is one of those globalist projects right now, and don't get me wrong, their city seems to be making some moves, but again, they don't have our problems. They don't have our amount of people in here, and they don't have the history that our police force has with the public. and in particular the bad history with the, you know, the bad public image that's been promoted by progressives and leftists. Okay, but this is the BS that's coming, and this is why we reference the dialogue policing in that logo. So.
Yeah, and just think about it. You know, it's insane to think. It is absolutely insane. Columbus Dialogue Policing Unit policed 30 protests last year. The police department of New York City policed 4,500 protests. So essentially what you're doing is you're taking a 6th grade youth team, which Columbus, Ohio is, and you're having them train a professional major league team. That's what you're doing. Youth T-ball baseball is training the Yankees. That's what it is. But there's no wording you could put out there to make it any friendlier. And look, I'm not knocking the guys in Columbus, Ohio. I'm not, but they are not on the world stage. New York City is. They are not anywhere near the terror threat that New York City is. They do not deal with the amount of insanity and paid activism that New York City does. It is a completely different style of policing. It's a different style of policing protest. And if they were effective, deputize them, bring them out to New York City, and have them show us how it's done for a week. They only need 1 week, and you're going to see that this model fails miserably. You know, you're going to see that this model fails miserably. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. And that's why everyone that's offended by that patch, good. Be offended. Because what you need to realize is you've been so emasculated that you're more offended about the truth than you are at the fact that your city is getting less safer, your quality of life is going down, and if you're in law enforcement and you're involved in policing these First Amendment things, what they want to call First Amendment activities, when they're clearly riots, taking over streets, blocking critical infrastructure, even emergency rooms, I mean, you're being left out there. Your career, your freedom, and your life is being put out there. And for what? For absolutely what? They don't want you doing it. So you really have to wake up to what's happening. And this could all stop tomorrow if we had an informed public. If you had an informed police department, if you had unions that actually cared about you, that would vocalize this, if they even understood it, because I don't think any of these guys do. Because again, I don't think that they're smart. I don't. Besides being spineless, I don't think that they're too intelligent either. You know, I'm sorry. It just is what it is. So and again, there is no leadership, and there's a lack of leadership in the NYPD, and there's a lack of competence in NYPD leadership. And I'm even talking about the frontline supervision, because again, policing is a thing of ego, right? And you think that ICE agents don't have egos like cops? Of course they do. I don't care what's happening. I don't care. Screw these people. I'm going to do this. No, you're not. Slow down. Let us clear the street. Let us get you an easy egress. Let's not make this look bad. There's cameras out there. There's medias out there. You know, this supervision, we used to own the night in New York City. Now you have paid agitators own the night, or ICE owns the night. No, it's like, no. You're not cooperating with them by formulating a plan to get them out there safely. And what I've talked about time and time again is that we're allowing ICE to move without actually competently restoring order on the street. And that just leads to more chaos, more bad decisions, more complaints, more lawsuits. And if you just handled the situation competently right from the get-go, this doesn't happen. Like Marlon said, have them back the car up. Clear the entire street. Leave them with a means of egress so that they could get out of there and not be assaulted by the police. So you're not dealing with this, fighting with protesters while you have a moving vehicle in the street, moving through the streets of New York, and you look like a bunch of bumbling morons. And the reason you look like a bunch of bumbling morons is because you're not formulating a plan prior to the movement. You're not effectively, competently restoring order. You're just pushing someone out there into chaos, and you're getting more and more chaos, and you're getting more and more complaints, and you're getting more and more lawsuits, and you're just getting it's just media hype. Look, what do you think happens when ICE leaves? What do you think happens when you don't maintain order and ICE leaves? This is what happens. They pull out into a street that's not boom, skateboard right through. I mean, and then you follow this clumsily through the streets in New York with cops that could potentially get run over, that are being assaulted, that are not properly equipped, not properly trained. Why don't these people have helmets on? Why don't these cops have helmets on? Why don't they have batons out? Is this not a baton helmet situation? Is this not a hat and bat situation? This clearly is. Why aren't there cops lining that whole block and maintaining, keeping that crowd in order? Do we not any longer have the ability to move crowds in New York City? Does the NYPD not have the resources capable to restore order on the street that day? They surely do. And look, what's in front of that sign? Emergency room, ambulance. What does that mean? You have a heart attack. Somebody slices open a vital artery. Your family member's in a bad car accident. They take a bad fall. Guess what happens? They die. You know why? Because of incompetence. Yeah. Is it the lefties that are doing this and causing all this? Yeah, absolutely. But they're only being allowed to do it by the people that you pay to maintain order. And they've become so solely focused on politics that they can no longer maintain order. I mean, this is pure, utter incompetence. This falls. Yeah, does this fall on Jessica Tisch? Absolutely, it does. Does this fall on Zohran Mamdani? Absolutely, it does. But it also falls on that white shirt and everybody that had a stripes on their shirt that day, because you should have been better and you weren't. I'm sorry. This is horrible, and it's just, were you guys set up for failure? Absolutely. So while you're being set up for failure, before you move. I mean, how many times do we have to see this? How many times do you have to see this? Nobody should have even been able to get near this car.
Yeah, it's true. So just to quickly go back, let's go back to this for a second. This was this is on our police blog. It's called Improving Police. I need to look up who is actually behind it, but this image is referencing an article that was in the Spokane, Washington paper, and where they talk about dialogue policing. And I thought it was curious, and I'm bringing it up here because, I wonder how much of the language in here is going to be used by Tisch and 1PP, and also how much of the things noted in here are going to be used by them too. In particular, the fact that the dialogue unit officers wear light blue shirts. Okay. Now, sounds to me like these dialogue officers are like community affairs. Yeah. But if we're hearing that SRG is going to be rebranded, what are the odds that SRG will now show up wearing baby blue community affairs like shirts? Okay. And let's go further on. Look at. So the article references something called the Madison method, and it's a method of let me pull up the exact definition. It's a progressive, community-oriented approach to protest policing developed in Madison, Wisconsin. Yeah, Madison, Wisconsin, because Madison, Wisconsin is like New York City, right? Right? Again, it was developed by Chief David C. Cooper, who I believe was the chief of police over there. Let me see, where was he? Yes, Madison.
Generated
Police
by
Department.
ChatGPT.
He was the chief there from 1972 to 1993, right? So the core philosophy of the Madison method is to prioritize de-escalation, facilitation, and the protection of First Amendment rights. I thought that's what we do to begin with as cops. Isn't that what we do to begin with as cops? What am I missing here? But also now look at what so these are the approaches to the Madison method. It's begin softly and keep talking. Always be ready to negotiate. that video John just played, I don't think you can negotiate much when a guy is swinging a skateboard at you, right? How are you going to negotiate with that? You know, I mean, once you get there, this is all stuff that you do to begin with, okay? And the whole problem here is that these protests are escalating into melees, okay? You can't when things once you first get there, you are already doing these things that they're talking about here, okay? You're telling the people, listen, you need to back up, you need to, clear the space so ambulance could get in there, could get to the hospital. But the problem is that the crowds are not are disregarding your orders, and the protest is escalating, okay? So what are you gonna what are any of these things gonna do for you when the protesters are throwing stuff at you, or fighting, or swinging skateboards at you? Okay, and this is complete garbage. Again, these are people that are out of touch with reality. Okay, it seems to me like it's more transplants trying to bring their small town policing to New York City, and it doesn't work because we police on a much larger scale than any of these towns that these ideas are coming from.
Now, I could speak from hands-on experience and tell you, I've traveled the entire country. I often talk about it on this network. And I've been to almost every city in this country. I've been to so many different small towns. And I can tell you this. With that being said, there's Chicago, there's Miami, there's San Francisco, there's Boston, there's Philadelphia. These are all cities that are similar to New York, but there is no New York. There is no city in this country that is like New York. There are some that have some similarities, some streets that are similar, but there is no city like New York City. It's the most densely populated and the most diverse, and it just has its own culture to it. New York City is its own animal. It's far different than any other city. And I used to say that the NYPD was the GOAT of policing. It was. Not the boots on the ground who are no longer the GOAT of policing. It's the leadership that has caused the NYPD to not be the GOAT of policing anymore. But to be the big brother of all law enforcement, not just in the U.S., but the entire world, to go to a small town, and I say small town, Columbus, Ohio, in the grand scale of things in comparison to New York City, is a small town. Is it a city? Yes. But it's more comparable to Staten Island. Staten Island has close to maybe a little bit over 500,000, and I think Columbus has about 900,000 people. Columbus is a lot bigger than Staten Island, but it's on the same scale. So if Staten Island was its own city, that would be the comparison. Well, New York City as a whole, 5 boroughs, which is actually 5 counties, is the big brother to all policing in this entire world. And yet we're going to the Columbus Dialogue Unit for advice. And the reality is the NYPD has been doing this forever. As long as I've been doing policing, as decades way before, has always had this predicate sentiment of de-escalating situations, to talk to people before you take action. Because the mission statement behind the dialogue unit is to have a softer appearance and before you take action. Now, it sounds great, but the NYPD already has that in place. They're called community affairs. The community affairs already has an apparatus that talks to people and has a softer appearance to engage. But you know what's behind that? SRG and uniform presence within the NYPD if the talking doesn't work. And the reality is, if the talks don't work, you better have something behind it. And the only way for a conversation to actually be fruitful is to have something behind it. We would not have our God-given rights in this country. We would not have our First Amendment, our Second Amendment, or any of our Bill of Rights if we didn't have force behind it. Those rights that were negotiated had force behind it. And without force behind it, you can't actually have negotiations. I believe, in fact, and that's on a world scale, when our presidents or when our presidents have negotiations on foreign policy with other countries, you cannot have diplomacy unless you have a strong military force ready to go behind it. Not saying they're going to take action, but the only way to have proper communication is you have force behind it. The same goes in a conversation. If you get into a car accident, God forbid, and it's getting people are getting heated, you can't have a nice conversation unless people know that you have force behind it if you have to. So other than that, your communication falls flat on its feet, because if people see weakness behind it, then the communication doesn't go anywhere. So that's the reality. So this idea of having a dialogue unit, we already have that nomenclature and apparatus in place, and that's community affairs. But behind community affairs is a presence and a force that is ready if those talks fall apart. So exactly what you told you today, they've already got the advice from the dialogue unit. And the dialogue unit is the SRG will be that dialogue unit. It says it in their mission statement: a softer appearance to talk things down without taking enforcement action. So yes, we've told you that SRG will be rebranded. It will be following the stage of the dialogue unit, and we give evidence, and that's exactly what's going to happen. So think about that. Big brother is getting advice from little brother, and you have to ask yourself why. And the reason why is because they want to strip away at the police department and make them more vulnerable, so that eventually they could just defund and move to AI and robotics, as we have been doing. And that's what's happening.
HFL says threats are empty if there's no force as an alternative. So I think it's beyond threats. Laws are meaningless if you have no ability to enforce them. Right? They don't matter. What did Alexander S. Williams, inspector of the NYPD, Clubber Williams, say? There is more law in the end of a policeman's nightstick than there is in a decision of the Supreme Court.
Spot on.
Police are the embodiment of the law. Arrests are embodiment of the law. They begin the criminal justice system. They are the consequence for violating that decision that was made by our elected lawmakers and their appointed and sometimes elected judges. So they're meaningless. Laws are meaningless if you have no ability to enforce them. And what's happening in this country and throughout this country, particularly in New York City, is we're removing the ability for our law enforcement to actually enforce the law. That's what we're doing. You know, this was hysterical to me, dude. Guardians of democracy, not controllers of dissent. They're trying to make the claim that you could take over a street, an angry mob could take over a street, could take over critical infrastructure such as bridges, tunnels, train stations, emergency rooms, and the NYPD or police officers or law enforcement officers have no ability and should have no ability to enforce that law because, you know, they're just exercising their First Amendment right. So, and what really angers me is the fact that that mob has stolen your First Amendment right. It has stolen every other American and every other person who's on the street or in that emergency room who wants to get to that emergency room, someone with a differing opinion, a dissenter from their ideology, from the mob's ideology. They've stolen your First Amendment activity. They've stolen your ability. They've stolen that God-given constitutionally protected right from you because they bullied the police department into seeing things their way. So they're not actually guardians of democracy. They are controllers of dissent of the mob. They're failed democracy. They're not the guardians of democracy. They're guardians of the angry mob, of the leftist angry mob, what it happens to be now. So, and they absolutely are controlling dissent, the dissent against that angry mob. So to me, I'm infuriated when I see this, when I watch this, because Marlon, you are 1,000% right. When we police protests competently, we are actually providing that First Amendment platform. That's what we're doing. We're providing a safe space for Americans to vocalize their First Amendment right without impeding on others' abilities to live their lives or vocalize their opinions or do that. And this version of the NYPD, this version of this nonsensical dialogue unit, this dumbed down version of policing does everything but that. It strips your ability away from being able to vocalize your First Amendment right, and it gives in to the angry mob. So we're doing the exact opposite of what we're claiming to doing here. And I don't know when America's going to wake up. I don't know when all of you law enforcement experts are going to wake up. I don't know when everyone that backs the blue lives matter, I always back the blue. I don't know when you're going to wake up, because what's happening now is you're being stripped of your First Amendment right to appease a mob, to appease an angry leftist mob, because the same blue leadership that you're backing, that you're staying silent about, that same political apparatus that's controlling New York City, they're taking it all away from you, and they're taking it away from you under a guise of they're protecting your First Amendment. And I don't know what's happening in this country. It's honestly, it's disturbing. I really don't know what else to say about it other than, yeah, this patch is deserving. If you're butthurt about it, you're part of the problem. You're part of the problem. None of this goes away until you wake up and you realize what the NYPD has become, what law enforcement throughout this country has become.
Marlon's unmuted. Mom, before you go, I just want to say, John, I'm glad that we all reiterated the same information, and I think that's so important for people to understand that there is no negotiation worldwide. There's no conversation without force behind it. Even if two men have a conversation, like I said, even if a car accident, something happens, or just a conversation, two men selling products, there's no negotiation unless those men actually have masculinity behind it. If not, it's just people being nice. And let's be realistic. Unless people know that there's actually potential force behind it, they don't take each other seriously. It's the same thing. You know, when men are out and they engage each other in conversations, they're not going to respect each other if they don't think there's potential force behind it if needed. Am I right, John? It's just a reality. I just think that men don't take each other serious. When men meet each other, let's be honest, they always size each other up like, can this person handle themselves? And if they think you can't, they're not going to take each other serious. And the same thing goes with a police force. You can't enforce law if you're not taking it serious. People don't force me. That's the reality.
But the reality is, in what we claim to be is a more civilized society, a nation of laws, not men, masculinity and force shouldn't matter because it's properly policed. Whether you're a 4-foot tall woman or you're a disabled man, you have the same ability to negotiate and the same ability to say what you want to say and move freely, because we have people defending your constitutional right because they swore an oath to put their life on the line. And what is happening is we've emasculated that ability under the guise that, in fact, we're doing that, and it's the exact opposite, where we're reverting back to, yeah, you actually need force. You know what you need in New York City? You need a bunch of radical right-wing extremists now to come out and bully the police department. And that's the only way you're going to be able to vocalize your opinion. Because if you went out in front of Wyckoff Hospital that day and you're like, hey, guys, I just want to talk for a second, you're going to get assaulted and potentially killed. And you're not going to be able to do that.
Exactly. Spot on. When people see weakness, they don't back off and say, oh, this person's weak. Actually, in fact, they attack more. They actually go for the jugular, figuratively speaking. And go ahead.
No, and Marlon, just before you go, Bob Holden put this out in regards to it. What I saw outside of Wyckoff Heights Medical Center the other night was disgusting. A hospital isn't a stage for chaos, yet we allowed masked agitators to shut it down for hours while officers stood there under optics first orders. That's the kind of kid glove policing that puts cops at risk and sends the worst possible message. SRG should have been deployed, and this should have been shut down immediately. Instead, Critical NYPD resources were tied up while a literal riot unfolded outside a facility people depend on for care. New Yorkers have every right to be furious. This is what a lack of leadership looks like from City Hall and One Police Plaza. And it's the public and our officers who pay the price. I think he basically just summed up everything that we've been saying here today.
That was beautiful. Shout out to you, Bob Holt. That was beautiful, spot on. I approve that message. Absolutely. It was 100% accurate. Here's someone who wasn't a cop, but he knows common sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that pretty much says it all. So again, the rebrand is coming for you at SRG, guys, and get ready to purchase that new baby blue uniform jacket and shirts, because
who's got the contract for those uniforms?
yeah.
Could we get our patch on there? We gotta create that. We gotta get a patch on that, or maybe should we make the patch light blue? You think?
If it's light blue, I think it should be a Care Bear. Let's go back to Care Bears, John. Care Bears are nice.
No, that's the training. That's the training module.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it used to be that the rest of the country took a lot of their ideas from us, and now it seems like we're taking all of their ideas instead of the opposite. And to me, that's bonkers, because again, we have a city of 8.5 million people taking advice from a city of what's the Spokane population? I don't know, the 230,000 people. Yeah, and keep in mind,
how many protests, Marlon? 4?
Yeah, I wonder about that.
That right, John? If that.
Yeah. And just think of it.
They probably had one No Kings protest, like outside of a grocery store. And it was 5 old ladies.
Yeah,
it's like, like, how do you guys do this and keep it so peaceful? It's like, they're all 80.
Yeah, 80-year-old hippies from right. But keep in mind also that Spokane's PD only has 350 cops, right? The 7.5 alone has 471 in 2023.
Yeah, had. Let's just keep that had. They don't have.
Well, yeah. We don't know the exact number, but the point I'm making here is that the 7.5 alone has more cops in it than Spokane's entire police department. So why are we taking advice from a chief from Spokane? If anything, the 7.5 CO, I think Deputy Inspector Hines, the Deputy Inspector Hines should be writing a piece right now on how to police protest, because he has more cops than Spokane. So why are we listening to Spokane with that 350 cops?
You know what he's doing right now, Marlon? He's approving this message right now so he can get promoted. That's what he's doing. he's buying his cops blue shirts. No, what are these blue vest?
Yeah. I'm not picking on him. He didn't do anything wrong. I'm just pointing out that,
I don't care.
He has more cops in his command in Spokane, Washington. So we're taking advice from a chief of Spokane, Washington. Over here, he'd just be a deputy inspector in the 7.5, or actually he'd probably be a DI in the 7.9, because the 7.5, once you hit the 7.5, you're about to make borough chief. Okay, that's
they shouldn't even call them DI anymore. Call them DEI inspector. That's what they are. Call them DEI inspector. Forget about DI inspector. DEI inspector.
Yeah. You know what's sick that you brought up the 7.5, dude? Is you want to hear something even crazy? Like, Wyckoff's not far from the 7.5 at all, right? It's in the A3, right? I'm pretty sure it's in the A3, but it's not far at all. They had a huge deployment of mobile field force out there. They would never mobilize to go to that hospital. I'm like, what are you paying these units for? Like, and that shows you everything that like needs to be said about that. It's ridiculous. So I already found the training module for what's going to happen for the new dialogue unit, and this is it's newly improved de-escalation First Amendment training, and this is what it does. When there's a bad guy, you all join arms and you do the Care Bear stare, and you all have you use all your diverse, inclusive, and equitable talents, And what you're going to do is dialogue all of the de-escalation out, and everyone's just going to, order is just going to come. So this is what the new training is going to look like. You're going to have to watch every season of the Care Bears to effectively learn the Care Bear stare. So new NYPD training incoming. Is it going to be Lisa Abbasi or is it going to be Jessica Tisch? We don't know.
Ding, 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 ding. I tell you what, I think I put my money that's Abbasi, but only after, unless it's already happened. And Marlon, I definitely want your take on this. I think that Jessica Tisch and her family right now are probably, I don't know, I haven't seen it. I would assume that they're in conversation with Mamdani and the politicians of where Jessica Tisch is going next. The only way they're going to get her out of there and put Abbasi is if they make some type of under the table deal. I'm sure that's in the works because Jessica Tisch clearly loves this job. She loves being in the public eye, and she loves the power because she sure as hell doesn't need the money. Marlon, what are your thoughts on that? Because we were talking about that before.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I had a little freeze on my screen there. Say that again, Eric.
Well, you and I were talking about this before. Talking about how powerful the Tisch family is, and I think that I think Abbasi is coming in, but not until, and I'm sure, I don't know. I would assume that Tisch and her family had a conversation with Mamdani and the politicians of where she's going next. I believe that they're not going to make a move until something is actually set up for her, something where she could be in another powerful position, because power is really important to her in this family. It's obvious because she sure as hell doesn't need the money. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, she could very well be going to the feds, with her connections to Trump and his kids. Again, she's a very powerful lady. I think people are underestimating how much power she has. When you're in the Council on Foreign Affairs, see, most people don't know that the Council on Foreign Affairs is really one of those round tables that really run the country. You don't know about them because nobody really talks about them. But what happens is these guys, you have former presidents, you have generals, you have heads of industry, heads of big tech, big data, big, every big CEO in the country usually has membership on the Council on Foreign Affairs, and they're tied in with the intelligence industry.
You know what's funny,
the
Marlon?
Intelligence complex.
Not to interrupt you, but there's a movie years ago. I can't remember it. And it's about that, and they're the ones that actually run the world. I wonder if you know it. I'm going to look it up because there's a movie about that. It's an old movie. Do you know it?
No, not per se, but it's true. It's true. It's complicated, but it goes into the Rhodes Society and the Western, the Anglo-Saxon alliance of the West, which includes England. And these roundtables all get together in conferences and they discuss what direction they want things to move in society. And she's part of that. And she's also part of the Federal Reserve. And again, that's basically control over the money. So it's a very powerful lady, and her family is very powerful and has been tied into the upper echelon of intelligence in this country for decades. Okay. So I think people are underestimating how much influence that she has and how much access she has and information that she's aware of. So it wouldn't surprise me if she then moves on to some job in the federal government, maybe even Homeland Security itself, with her, with that knowledge and her tech background as well. So
maybe she'll go to ICE. Who knows, right? The same organization that she's in opposition right now because of politics. Maybe they'll put her in charge of ICE. Who never knows? But my point is, I think that there is some plan going on behind the works as far as where she's going to go. There's no doubt about it. If I was a betting man, which I'm not, I would put my money that Abbasi's going to be the next PC. I know Rodney Harrison is sucking his way up trying to get there, but I think it's Abbasi. But Rodney Harrison denies those claims, but I think he wants that spot, and I think that's why he's been in the media, especially with some podcasts and things like that.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Sorry, Eric.
No.
I was
Love
just gonna
you, bro.
say, next time you, if you get a chance, watch Abasi speak. There was some police forum that I was listening to an interview, and a lot of the things he was saying don't sound all that different from what Tish is saying. You know, he mentions precision policing and a whole bunch of academic mumbo jumbo. And the point I'm getting at is these people aren't that far apart, really. You know, it's just another face. And these people are stupid, right? They're not coming up with any of these ideas on their own. They're getting ideas from think tanks and from larger organizations. And in Tish's case, I think she's getting a lot of it from the Council on Foreign Affairs, by the way. But that's another conversation. But my point is that when you hear Abasi talks, he mentions precision policing a lot. Okay, and Tish, that's her buzzword, her favorite buzzword, precision policing, and she makes it sound like she created it, you know, but she didn't. It's coming from academia. It's coming from these NGOs. It's coming from, you know, larger people beyond the faces that you're seeing repeating it.
So I again, I'm saying that Issa Abbasi was taken over, and I think that I'm not saying that any of these decisions are being done on a whim. This has already been pre-planned in the works from before Mamdani even took office, before he even won the election. So, I'm not saying that any of this stuff is being done on a whim and not being done with the exact permission of Jessica Tisch and her family and her donors. She is a super powerful woman. And if in fact she wants to stay as the police commissioner, she will stay as the police commissioner, but that is not the goal, in my opinion. So I think that all of this has been worked out. And if it is come in fact that she is in opposition to the SRG, that was already pre-planned. That was already a pre-planned disagreement, in my opinion. And the media will react accordingly to that. I think it's going to be a very hard summer. I think everyone knows it's going to be a very hard summer, and all the optics in the world, all of the perception versus reality in the world isn't going to save the public from seeing what they're seeing. It's just not. And so I don't know that she's going to want her name attached to what's about to come this summer, right? It's going to get a lot warmer. It's going to be a lot more dangerous. There's going to be a lot more crime. It's going to be a lot less cops. There's going to be a lot more cops that are real angry about what's happening and how they're being led and how they're being treated. So I don't think any of this stuff is being done on a whim. I don't think it's like, oh yeah, Issa Abbasi is going to, they're moving him up now because he's unhappy with Tish. No. None of that stuff matters. This has all been pre-planned, Joe, oh, look who's in the chat. Joe, where's your data analysis that points to it being a bad summer? You aren't an analyst, John. Stop. So, Joe, it's called the summer crime spike that happens every summer. So it's called history. It's called every summer. And the fact that you just keep weakening the police department and you keep losing people and you don't have enough people to even police the 5-borough bike tour, the commie extravaganza. You won't own a car and you'll watch us ride our bikes around with our helmets on while none of you could drive. That's my analysis. My analysis is watching this every year of my 45 years of existence, watching crime spike in the summertime, Joe. So thank you for being here. We appreciate you.
Actually, Marlon, I remember the movie now. It actually was a documentary. It's Zeitgeist, if you know it.
Zeitgeist?
No, Zeitgeist. It's called
Zeitgeist. No, I'm gonna have to watch it now.
So Zeitgeist is a documentary, and it's about the three components that they believe run the world. It's a religious narrative, the financial institutions, and also the powerful people that have a say on what happens globally. And it's kind of like it's a little bit of a conspiracy theorist, but it makes sense that it's really the elites that run the world, and they actually push their global and structural agenda. So it's really interesting. I think you should watch that. Yeah, Steven, that's Zeitgeist. Yep, that's it. So it's a documentary, and it's really about like who actually runs the world, and they actually shape the world, the elites and things like that. And part of it is like the Council of Affairs. So I think that's it. And there's an older movie also. I'm I can't remember an even older movie that talks about that. Really, like who runs the world. And I think it's also kind of, if you can see that in the movie Syriana with George Clooney and Matt Damon, when they were actually the politicians are the oil companies are trying to push. There's two brothers that who's going to run one of the countries in the Middle East, and they're trying to push the brother that's actually a mass murderer because he's the one that makes the money, rather than the other brother who's the good brother, and they're actually the ones that are actually behind the politics. It's pretty. I think Syriana is a great movie for that. But what we're talking about here is this is the real deal we're talking about here. New York City, again, I said it earlier, it's the big brother policing for the entire world. I don't think there's any city that comes close, especially in policing. And as I said before, I traveled the entire country, and I traveled a lot of different places in the world, and there is no city like New York. I saw someone in the chat here, one of our friends and listeners, said that Toronto is just like New York City. Toronto is actually the most diverse city in the entire world. In fact, that's a good point, but it's still not New York City. New York City is its own animal, and especially when it comes to policing. And there's no one that does it better when it comes to dialogue. So it's interesting going to dialogue. I don't think that we've even when times were good and we got more support, the police department always spoke about verbal judo. Communication was always the key in the effectiveness of policing in the NYPD. Communication first, right? Even John and Mullen, if you remember, I remember I was taught even by the senior cops, right? It was always about communication. It was ask someone, right? Tell them, and then make them, right? It was always give people an opportunity to have a conversation before you take action. But the reality is, in order to ask someone or tell them, the only way that they're going to comply is knowing that there's force behind it. One of our friends and listeners said the same thing, right? They only have to raise their voice, and their kids in their home actually comply because they take daddy seriously. Not that you're going to hit them, but they know there's some masculinity by it and that you have a strong character. And that's the reality. Negotiations, conversations can only actually lead to a settlement knowing that there's force behind it. That's the only reason that we have the Bill of Rights. It's the only reason that we have our Constitution is because this country fought in the American Revolution. So it's great to have negotiation, communications, but there has to be force behind that, or willingly force. And that's the reality. It sounds ugly, but it's the goddamn truth. And I say that, just think about it. It's in everyday conversations. It's just life. Even if you go to buy a car, if you're negotiating your car, I'm not saying that you're going there to beat up the salesman, but if the salesman doesn't see a backbone, they're going to walk right through you and you're going to pay out the nose. It's just the reality. It's how life works. I see Joe 14% is on a tangent here. When are you going to change your name to Joe 14? I don't know what type of policing you do if you are a cop, but it's seriously absolutely ridiculous. Modern Samurai says here, the Zycast movie series is widely considered by historians and fact checkers to be highly inaccurate, containing a mixture of trivial truths, exaggerated claims, and fabricated information. Yeah, like I said, it is based on a lot of conspiracy theories, but it makes you think. And I don't think it's far behind beyond truth that there are elites and financial institutions that are really running this world. I mean, look at Blackstone and BlackRock, and you look at all these different entities, and I think there is a lot of truth to that. So, Amal, don't you agree? I just think if we look at BlackRock and we look at these companies, they have a lot of say, and they can move the needle.
Well, yeah, they do, which is absolutely going to play into what the next segment we're getting into. You'll see just how deep that financial rabbit hole that rabbit hole per se goes when it comes to our city council, okay, and what you're about to get in New York City, and it ain't good, and it doesn't it's not going to help. It's not going to improve your lives, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so I think we're done with that topic, right? The SRG is being rebranded. They're not being disbanded. It's all a game. So wake up. Smarten up.
Wake up. Smart up.
So So the super speeders bill, we've been talking about it, right? We've been talking about this cop, James Giovansante, who they're using as the scapegoat, and they're using him as the poster boy. They're saying he's the biggest super speeder. He's the #1 wanted criminal. They put this dude on a wanted flyer, like an old Western style wanted flyer. And they have cops and a lot of Republicans butthurt. This is irresponsible. This cop has all of these summonses, suspend his license, fire him, take his job from him. It's ridiculous. And the reality of it is because of due process and Fourth and Fifth Amendment concerns, James Giovansante does not have 1 point on his license, and none of those tickets go back to his license. So that's the reality of it. But what you're advocating for is you're going for this far left surveillance state agenda where your due process rights and your Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights will be stripped from you. So the super speeders bill is being really heavily pushed in this budget that Kathy Hochul is working on. A lot of pressure is being put on Assembly Speaker Carl Hastie to sign off on this and to push this bill. Hochul's behind it. All of the far left advocates are behind it. And we recently just saw that 36 city council members actually wrote a letter to Kathy Hochul and to Hastie saying that they want the super speeders bill passed. And what's really concerning is Republican Frank Morano is on that signature. He put his signature towards that bill. And so that bill is basically being pushed that if you get 16 or more of these violations that aren't tied to your license, your vehicle is going to have this piece of low-grade tech placed into it, which is going to basically limit the vehicle. So it's going to limit your ability to speed in the vehicle. So it only limits the vehicle, doesn't limit the driver. So to sit there and say this is going to have an effect on public safety is just a lie. It's going to have a near zero effect on traffic safety or public safety. It does nothing to limit the person that was actually behind the wheel because we can't, by law, say that that person was in fact behind the wheel, right? And I think that's proper because that I believe in the Constitution of the United States of America. I swore an oath to protect it. So as much as you guys are bleeding, and I have all these tampons here for you, I'm not willing to give them over because if something sounds bad or something doesn't look good or optics. There's nothing that says that one summons makes you a super speeder or 547 make you a super speeder. So if the guy that has 547 is a super speeder, then when you have one, you're a super speeder. If you have 16, you will be deemed a super speeder. So, and that 16 is going to be very easily attainable now. And while that's happening, New York State is even coming down harder on drivers. And it's part of an anti-car agenda that will ultimately lead to more and more tyrannical legislation because the super speeders bill by itself will not even do anything, will not move the needle at all, other than it will move the profit for the company that has this low grade tech that's behind all of the stuff that you're seeing right now. So this video comes out on Instagram from an attorney, and he's talking about the state of driving in New York City. So just keep that in the back of your head while you're butthurt about James Giovansante. Send your address, please, in the comments, and we'll or you could message us, and I'll send you over a tampon.
Greatest city in the world, New York City, is doing everything it can to make it more difficult to live here. Beginning in February of 2026, if you are speeding even 1 mile past the speed limit, meaning you're going 51 as opposed to 50 on a highway, now that violation has increased from 3 points to 4 points. Using a cell phone while driving used to carry a violation of 5 points. That's now going to be 6 points. Driving with a broken taillight now carries a violation of 1 point, where before it was just a ticket. The benchmark for having your license suspended used to be getting 11 points in a period of 18 months. Now it's 10 points in 24 months. What does that mean? That means these innocent violations violations will add up very, very quickly, and your license can be suspended much, much quicker. Not only that, the amount of money that you have to pay for these violations are all increasing and going up. Now, New York City will say, well, we're doing this to promote safety in driving, but we know what they're really doing. It's not about safety. It's about revenue raising. Think about it. In New York, you can't park where you want. You can't drive where you want. You can't eat what you want. You can't drink where you want. You can't carry a gun where you want. Everything is restricted in New York. They make it as difficult as possible to live here. Why do they do that? Because you keep paying taxes. You keep living here. You keep paying their rents, and they don't care about you, because it's one thing if they take your money and they use it well to give you a better life. But we saw what happened in the last snowstorm. They can't even clean your streets of snow, and they want to keep raising your rents to do what? To give it to migrants, to give it to people who don't even pay taxes here. All they're doing is punishing taxpayers, and that's why more and more people are leaving the city. And unless things change, that trend isn't going anywhere. As more and more people leave the city, less and less good people will remain, and that's a problem for everybody.
Yeah, guys. We're about to get into this one, and so this is the signatures that John is referring to in the letter, right? From city council members. Let's look at some of those names on there. If you could read it, we got Sean Abreu. We've got Harvey Epstein. Let's see. Go to the next page. Sorry, it's a little small. We got Natasha Williams, the same city councilwoman who believes that you should be arrested if you make a meme online. Shanana Hanif, and let's go to the last page. Oh, look, there's Frank Moreno's signature. Yeah, nice job, Frank. That seems very Republican of you, very conservative.
Thanks, Frank.
Yeah. Staten Island appreciates your
the borough that needs cars, especially, right?
Huh?
Well, the borough that especially needs cars. Frank Moreno signs off on this. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. So you know what's interesting, right? A lot of those other signatures, right? If you dig into those names, you find out what? Well, a lot of them are candidates that have been endorsed or whose campaign has been funded by, they've had contributions from Mark Gordon. Now, we spoke about Mark Gordon last week because he's the billionaire hedge fund guy, right? He's a billionaire hedge fund guy who created Open Plans, which is the parent of Streets Blog. We told you before how Streets Blog is really a influence campaign for Wall Street, which is masquerading as journalism. It's not journalism at all. Okay, when you create a hit piece about using the cop when you know very well the cop isn't the top guy. In fact, I believe the cop is number 3 on there, and we haven't even gotten a number 1 or number 2 on there, and they don't care to talk about number 1 or number 2 because they need the cop in order to push through something into this law, which is, by the way, it's unconstitutional. Okay, it is. Just because it hasn't gotten to that level of the courts in New York State doesn't mean it's not. In fact, there was a case involving Nassau County where the judge ruled that Nassau County was putting additional fees on traffic cameras, and the judge ruled that you can't do that. Okay, you can't do that. So just because it hasn't reached the level of the courts doesn't mean that we're not going to get there yet. Because in Florida, there's a case in Florida where the district judge already ruled that it's unconstitutional. In his words, he said the red light camera in civil infractions function as a quasi-criminal proceeding because they result in monetary penalties if a formal finding of guilt and consequences tied to the driver's record. Now he's talking about the red light cameras in Broward County, but keep in mind here that it's not that much different from New York because they want to put the proceedings and monetary penalties on the vehicle owner when you don't know who the driver is, right? And as John said, how is that correcting the traffic condition? Because now the driver can just go find another vehicle, right? So we're putting penalties on the owner, and the driver, doesn't matter to him. It's not going to affect them. But anyway, let's get back to the fact that the people who are signing this legislation are backed by Streets PAC. And what's the thing about Streets PAC, right? See this list? These are the people connected to Streets PAC. Streets PAC, well, guess who is the primary individual donor and board member of Streets PAC? If you guessed Mark Gordon, you are correct. It is, again, Mark Gordon. Okay. And there you have it. You have Lincoln Wrestler, who is one of the top Streets PAC funded candidates, by the way. You have Sean Abreu, you have Justin Brannan, Julie Menin, the Speaker of the City Council herself, okay, Shanana Hanif. And interestingly enough, you have Christopher Marte, whose opponent was funded by, in the last primary, was funded by Gordon and Streets PAC. But I believe Marte here is now throwing an olive branch to Gordon because he doesn't want to get primaried, okay, because he was close to doing it last time, right? So these people are connected to Streets PAC. And as John mentioned, did you mention it, John, about Frank Moreno?
Oh, about who, his brother?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure Alex Morano is his brother. I'm not 100%, and if you want to pull up who Alex Morano is, so
yeah, I'll pull him up.
I've been told this numerous times, even before he was in office, that his brother Alex Morano, who's tied to Transalt and Streets blog.
I believe so too. Now I just started digging into him, but I was looking at his Twitter, and prior to 2019, he did tweet at a lot to Frank Moreno, but that seemed to have stopped at 2019. I believe actually there was more, but he probably scrubbed it, and he is clearly a leftist, and he's clearly connected to Streets blog and Trans Alternatives and all these guys, okay, because he advocates for that. The everything about this agenda is being pushed on his account as well, okay? But that's the thing. This, as we said before, this is the influence of money in politics and influencing the laws. You're clearly seeing it here, okay? This law is not going to benefit the people of Staten Island, okay, or New York City, because there are parts of the city where people need their vehicles and they need to be able to drive, and you're putting an unfair burden onto them, especially as you lower what infractions incur what points on your license, okay? And again, the super speeders bill also has provisions in there for points on your license. If you have certain amount of points now, you're going to get that thing attached to your vehicle. Now, and again, they're lowering what infractions, how many infractions you need in order to get those specific points in your license. So it's completely unfair,
I think it's quite interesting that Frank Morano ran his campaign that he was going to fight some progressive policies, and he's now signing off on progressive policies himself. That was one of his campaign components, running for Staten Island. So here, this is a progressive policy. Now, I took some notes, and Marlon, I sent you a graph if you could put it up. And I think it's pretty interesting. So I want to really break this down if we could get the results. I find it, listen, we know that there's no doubt about it. They were looking for a super speeder that is a cop. He could have been number 155. They would figure out how to put him in here as a super speeder. But I don't think it's a coincidence that they also found a cop from Staten Island who's getting those summonses in Staten Island. And here's the reason why, I think. So some of the notes I have here. In Manhattan, only about 20 to 20% of people have a car and own a car. In the Bronx, it's around 40%. Now, when we look at Staten Island, it's about 82 to 83% of households own a car or more than one car. So in this agenda, I don't think it's coincidence that they found a cop and also the cop that lives and works in Staten Island, where Staten Island has the most cops per person per capita, far beyond the other boroughs in comparison. So like I said, if you compare the Bronx, which is an outside borough, to Manhattan in comparison to Staten Island, there's far more cars in Staten Island. So I don't think that's a coincidence. So I pulled up that chart. You can see some of the numbers.
Yeah.
By car, by borough. I think it's quite interesting. So I again, I would love to see the breakdown. Again, we still don't know who's number one. Modern Samurai, I think it was you, brother, who said that, in fact, this cop is actually number 6. I don't know what number he is, but I don't think it's a coincidence. And I think there's somehow, just like someone had mentioned it recently we spoke to, when it comes down to overtime list in the NYPD, you know, certain people are removed, and then we get to who's number one, right? We remove people in one police plaza, remove certain people in the units. And I think it's the same thing going on with this these findings. I don't know, but I surely think so. I don't think it's a coincidence it's a cop. I don't think it's a coincidence that the cop lives in Staten Island and works on Staten Island. What are your thoughts, Sean?
Can you send me that again, Eric? I'm
gonna send it again. Sure.
Yeah.
No, I mean it's complete. Like I said, he's being used as the poster child, and it's inflaming this emasculated society. That's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. He got 1 million parking tickets. Oh my God, he was doing 21 and a 10. Oh my God, he's a super speeder. How could he get 547? I'm sorry, is there a rule that I'm not aware of that you can't get 547 camera summonses? Is there a rule? Is there a law? Oh, wait. What happened to his license? Oh, we don't know. You know, and so that's the thing that I people don't grab. Like Sleepy Joe's. I cannot defend the Staten Island cop. I'm not defending the Staten Island cop. I'm defending constitutional protections. Yes. I'm protecting your right to due process. I'm protecting your 4th and 5th Amendment rights. I'm not defending the cop. The cop, we do not know, was behind the wheel. We do not know he was behind the wheel because the camera lights are unconstitutional, because they violate your right to due process and your 4th and 5th Amendment rights. And we're going to hand it over because some cop had a crazy number. Who said any number's crazy? It's all subjective. Whether it's 1 or 547 is completely irrelevant to me. If he should be fired, every cop should be fired who gets a camera light. If he's a super speeder, you're a super speeder. Anyone that's ever got a camera light is a super speeder. You are being hooked on this leftist mentality. It's yellow journalism. It's fake journalism. It's propaganda. It's being put out there to inflame you. And we've been so dumbed down and so weakened that we're afraid to stand on a position because it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. I don't like it. He's a cop. Where's his integrity? Where's his decision-making skills? It's like, well, you know what? I'm sorry, but I've gotten camera tickets and I drive like grandma. Sorry. You know, doing 21 in a 10 does not make you a super speeder. Just sorry. And the way we just played you the video, what's happening in New York City is every single one of you are going to be super speeders. Every single one of you are going to have points on your license, are going to be minutes away from getting your license suspended. I'm not defending him. I'm defending the constitutionality of the argument being made against him. And it's wrong, and it's anti-American, and it's opinion-based and emotionally driven. Let's take the emotions out of it. That's all I'm saying. I've been pretty consistent, not just with him, with everything. I've been pretty consistent on here. If he did something that was really off kilter, I would be the first one to say whatever. Is it fiscally responsible to own a vehicle that gets 547 summonses? Maybe his mother was driving it. Maybe he needs to be able to talk to his mother. Maybe his girlfriend was driving it. Maybe she runs his life. Maybe he's not the alpha in the relationship. I don't know. Maybe it's him. We don't know. None of it matters. None of it matters. The bottom line is this. We do not know that he was behind the wheel, that he should face no consequences as a result of it. That's it. Same way I would stand up for him, same way I'd stand up for anybody else. It is what it is. I asked a question on here. Did he get any 911 calls against his vehicle? Oh, we don't know. Was he involved in any accidents? Oh, we don't know. These things matter. They matter. Mullen asked, what are you doing to stop the driver? Oh, we're going to need to get some more legislation where we can track and trace the driver. This is the society you want? You want to be tracked and traced? Oh, my God, you did 12 miles an hour. We got to give you a point. 2 points on your license because you went 2 miles over the speed limit. Listen to what we're saying. Stop getting hooked on the 547. Don't get hooked on it. Legally, does it matter? No, it does not matter.
Yeah, great point, John. Eric, this is the information you sent me. It's a little small though.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a better version, but if you get it, if someone, if you watch it, you can zoom in on it. You can see there's a breakdown by each borough of percentage of car ownership. And if you look at Staten Island, it has the highest rate of car ownership, as I said, per person per capita. And actually, most of the homeowners of Staten Island own more than one car. I think this one actually it says 84%. So 84% of ownership is in Staten Island in comparison to the Bronx and Manhattan. Queens and Brooklyn is a little higher, but not even close to Staten Island. Staten Island is far beyond those numbers. So if we look, and if anyone has an opportunity to zoom in and look at this graph, you can see, to me, I don't think it's coincidence. I don't believe in any coincidence. I say it often. I don't think it's coincidence that the person targeted is one, a cop, most tangible form of government. How do you move the needle? You attack a cop. You get people emotionally driven. You get interested in this. And the agenda, and J.K. Trotter said himself, he's more anti-car. Thank you, Marlon, for pulling this up and zooming in. More anti-car than anti-cop. And so and to really move the needle, you need to attack Staten Island because it has the most car ownership here. And obviously, Staten Island needs cars much more than the other boroughs because it has less transit opportunities than it does their counterparts. There is a bus system. The bus system is pretty good, but in the southern part of Staten Island, not nearly where it needs to be yet, but still, it's a borough, and the infrastructure is designed to travel by car. So I don't think it's any coincidence. If you look at this graph, that Staten Island happens to be the target for this particular car, and being a cop, the cop lives on Staten Island and works on Staten Island. Again, I don't think it's any coincidence. I think it fits the agenda. What are your thoughts, Marlon, now that you see this chart?
Yeah, I 100% agree. 100. And I was doing some research on it last night, and there's been a surge of tickets being issued in Staten Island lately, by the way. So again, something else that you guys should find interesting. I was trying to pull it up, but while Eric was talking, but I didn't get a chance to yet. But what I found interesting was I was going through the law itself, and it mentioned who's going to be doing the enforcing of the putting the device on vehicles. And it goes back to, in New York City, it would go back to the sheriff's office, right? So this is the law itself. Now, the law is, I'll get the exact number of the law. It is Senate Bill SAM 4045 Charlie. And so it mentioned peace officer, right? And in New York City, this would fall under the sheriff's office, right? And the sheriff's office is their oversight is by the Committee on Finance in City Council. And guess who's on the Committee on Finance? Well, Frank Moreno is on the Committee on Finance. So again, this isn't about traffic condition, right? We told you about it before. We showed you those videos last week when Julie Manin mentioned cameras as revenue raisers, right? It's not about that. It's not about a traffic condition, because if it was, we would be calling for more cops on, traffic enforcement duties who would stop drivers who are driving recklessly, and we would issue them summons, and those drivers would have points on their license, and eventually they would lose their privileges in the state. It's not about that. It's about revenue. It's about money. Okay. And the clues are right there in your face, what it's really about. And again, I don't think it's a coincidence that it's targeting Staten Island, because again, they have Eric just showed you that the amount of vehicles they have in Staten Island. And if your goal is to get the most revenue you can, then naturally you're going to target you're going to go for the target rich environment, right? which is one of those is Staten Island. So
where their reward is they have a disproportionate amount of speed and red light cameras than the rest of the boroughs, because that's their reward for voting for people who are actually Democrats but pretend to be Republicans, and then who play patty cake with the socialists. So, you know, look who's joined us today. Nin's on here. He says, Modern Samurai, yet again, dude. If this guy was not a cop, he would have his license suspended and possibly go to jail. Fuck this guy and the cops who defend this obvious bullshit. So, Nin, you know, you should know this. I mean, I know you have a hard time reading the law because you often cite law that makes absolutely no sense into the argument that we're having here. But just so you know, nobody, whether they were a cop or not a cop, would have their license suspended as a result of speed camera or red light camera violations, because you cannot put those people behind the wheel. So they're not having their license suspended. They're not getting points on their license, and they definitely aren't going to jail. So again, I think what you do, it's called like, we should call it like yellow law interpretation, because it's completely selective and it's completely narrative driven and base driven. It's like almost like saying, what's the new word that the ponytail Judas always says? Oh, that's right. It's called extrajudicial punishment.
yeah,
Extrajudicial punishment.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what that is. What is that?
Yeah, when a police officer is trying to effect arrest of a resisting suspect, extrajudicial punishment does not come into play, my friend. So, and someone going to jail or getting their license suspended, regardless if they're a cop or not. And again, the guy's not even in the top 10, dude. If you look at the top 10 speeders in New York City, according to Transalt, his license plate is not listed. That Bronco is not listed. There are other vehicles listed, one of them being a taxi cab. And none of those people are getting their license suspended or going to jail. So let's have a you could argue with us all you want, but let's just have a real argument instead of the constant race and the race baiting and the anti-police hate. Like it's just not normal.
Yeah, that's why this conversation is moot. So to Nin, our number one fan, the conversation falls flat in its face, because you're saying that if he wasn't a cop, he would be suspended. And we've already told you, even if he was the number two, we still don't know who's number one. And we know number one is not a cop, which is why they haven't plastered or actually put number one in the highlight. And number one, to our knowledge, has not been suspended. The car has not been impounded. We don't know anything about number one. We only know about number two because the agenda isn't being a cop. So, Nin, if you want to have a real conversation, let's have real conversations. But instead, you just want to lambast this conversation because it pushes your narrative. And again, it's funny to talk about extrajudicial punishment. That's what they're trying to force upon cops, is extrajudicial punishment that doesn't even make sense. Do you think that the ponytail came up with that on his own, or do you think that was actually inputted by somebody else? I find it hard to believe he came up with that on his own. If he did, kudos to him. But I don't even know what that means. But if we are talking about extrajudicial punishment, the only extrajudicial punishment I see is towards cops who don't get due process. Cops that are being charged for defending themselves in subways. Cops that are being charged for defending themselves to resisting violent perpetrators. That's the only extrajudicial punishment I see is being thrown at cops. Not the other way around. Just completely false narratives driven by Nin and company. Nin, you don't know what you're talking about. Just complete horseshit, complete bullshit. You just like to stir the pot. I'm glad you're here. It does make for great conversation. And thanks for being a fan. But nearly everything you say has no meaning behind it and absolutely no evidence behind it either. Completely lacking. You just show a lack of intelligence, and you just show that you're also pushing a narrative. Every time we talk about an agenda, it's interesting how the trolls come on. So it just shows that what we're saying here is actually right. We're telling you that a cop is being targeted. We're telling you that Staten Island is being targeted. Not only that, have we told you this? We showed you the evidence to support it.
Let me see. Sorry for
right. Nin says I meted out extrajudicial punishment in 2020. I actually saved lives and helped people, but thank you very much, and I appreciate you recognizing that.
Yeah, and I just want to give a shout out to former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. He's in the hospital in critical but stable condition. We don't know his his condition at the moment. Not really sure what's going on with him, and just to respect him, we haven't reached out either to find out. So, prayers for Rudy, the best mayor in New York City history, regardless of what people have to say. Bloomberg capitalized on his victories, and then de Blasio, Eric Adams, and now Zohran Mamdani have thrown all that stuff in the trash. But shout out to you, Rudy. Hope you feel better soon, brother.
Yeah, I bless to Rudy. We wish him recovery, of course. But what it does show you is that a system of skills is perishable. And what I mean by that is Rudy Giuliani implemented systems along with the police department that should have lasted forever. But it just shows that skills and systems are perishable when you get the wrong people in the place and wrong people in charge of politicians and politics. And that starts with former Mayor Bill de Blasio, who's no different than Eric Adams, who's no different than Zohran Mamdani, who's no different than Andrew Cuomo. Any one of them, they're all exactly the same. They've been pushing the same agenda. And if anyone thinks that any of their agenda is different, I speak to cops on a constant basis, particularly cops, who tell me how bad things are getting under Zohran Mamdani. And I almost question, I said, well, where were you 4 months ago when Eric Adams was in office? What different has things been now? I don't see it being any worse. I just see it on the same level playing field. The only difference is that this guy is transparent and telling you who he is, and Eric Adams was lying to you, and you wanted to live and pretend that lie was real. That's the only thing I see, is that people want to pretend. You're either pretending because you know they're lying to your face, or you're just that dumb. And I hope it's not that you're dumb. I hope that you're actually just living a lie, which I think is even worse. But to hear that you're that dumb would really be disappointing.
Yeah. Shout out to Mayor Giuliani. Again, he's a seminal figure in the history of New York City, and he'll always be, because if you're young enough, if you're old enough rather, to remember the New York City of the early 90s and the 80s, then you'll realize how important a figure he is in stemming that chaos. But just to go back to what we were talking about earlier, now this is Alex Moreno, by the way, guys. Just so if you're going to say hello to him, just tell him the Finest Unfiltered says hello. And this is some of his posts, right? This is in 2019, where he alludes to Frank Moreno's wedding. So I guess he sung at his older brother's wedding, huh? And again, plenty of posts referencing Frank Moreno. Okay, so. What's pretty hilarious though is how he's anti-billionaire, even though he's doing the bidding of a billionaire. I'm not even sure these people realize that they really are doing the bidding of a billionaire. Okay, and this is some of his posts on Streets blog. Okay, so, and something else to consider now, right? The reason why Staten Island is going to get screwed even more is because Mamdani's already put out his racial equity plan, right? And they're proposing, the Streets blog and Open Plans and the people in that sphere are proposing something called daylighting, right? Which essentially amounts to, we're not all going to be paying the same amount on the fine. So I wonder, right? Who is going to be paying more on these fines? This is. When they said they're bringing about racial equity, I think we should take them at their word and see what crazy, wacky, unconstitutional and really racist ideas that they're going to be promoting. Okay, so
Sick, fellas. So yeah, I don't know. Anything else on this? I think we had a pretty productive day. I got a bunch of videos, like use of force videos, but I mean, we're 2 hours, 40 minutes into it.
I think that we show the evidence that, again, I've said this for years. I've always said this. It has nothing to do with this particular incident. I really don't believe in coincidences. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Staten Island being the borough that has the most cars per person, per homeowner, and more than one, and in fact is the target of this investigation with a cop who works and lives in Staten Island. What are the chances? Huh? Definitely not a coincidence. definitely semantics. They definitely did their homework to find a cop from Staten Island that works at Staten Island. It really fits all the mold. Absolutely, Staten Island, prepare for the worst. It's coming. It's coming. They're trying to take your cars away. They're trying to take your ability to have transportation. Staten Island does not have a subway system. It does not have the transit system in comparison to other boroughs. It has a transit system, but it's not there yet where you can survive and have a fruitful life without a car. You need a car. And I would argue that in the outer boroughs, you need a car in most areas also, except for Manhattan. You do. And in order to have the freedom that you want to pick up and travel, you need a car. It's just a reality. A car is freedom. It's mobility. Remember what we talk about the Constitution today? It's freedom. So to own a car is the ability for you to have your own freedom. And they want to take away your freedom.
Yeah, if you're a cop who again is not understanding what we're talking about here, you're out of your mind for supporting this, because again, you still work in the city, you're still going to be traveling to work, and it's going to be you who are going to be facing whatever further surveillance and tracking comes out of this. And we talked about it in the past, how the scamdemic was the test bed for a lot of these things, for the track and trace society. And curiously enough, we saw the prominent role the sheriff's department played during COVID, right? They're basically like the one of the chief enforcement arms of the scamdemic. Okay. And here again, we mentioned how the sheriff's department is going to be doing the enforcement of this. Okay. So something else to consider now. So you think it won't affect you, right? Well, we already talked about them lowering the points in order to, that each infraction now incurs, right? So there's something else in the law that's kind of screwy. I'd love a further explanation on this. It basically amounts to, if your municipality doesn't use intelligence, if your municipality doesn't use photo enforcement monitoring, right? You can still attach this unit to the top 1% of speeders in your municipality if those speeders have gotten tickets from like a municipality that uses the speed enforcement cameras. This particular paragraph, I read it a couple times, and I think that I need a further explanation on this, because this is even more bonkers. Okay, because does that mean if say Yonkers doesn't have cameras, and I get tickets in New York City, can Yonkers now put that device on my vehicle, even if the number of tickets I get doesn't amount to the threshold of 16 and 12 months? Because that's absurd. And if this is the kind of society exactly you want to live in, you're out of your damn mind. Okay,
spot on, brother. Spot on.
Yeah, no civil rights. Speed cameras over civil rights. That's what it is. Camera lights over it. Just want to address Slick Rick real quick, because I've been getting this all morning, dude, and I don't know why, and it annoys the shit out of me every time he says it. Giuliani gave cops zeros, yet they still love him. I don't understand. All right, so you got zeros under Giuliani right after 9/11. Heroes for zeros, it was framed at. It was the driving force behind the Lynch administration, who came in and got you significantly worse contracts every year since. The zero contract, there hasn't been a better contract since that time. So first 2 zeros up front, I know it was a real smack in the face for everybody. No retro, get it. But you didn't give anything back. You still winded up getting a significant raise later on, right? Part of that was your PBA was using your funds to go down to Atlantic City at the time, and they got caught doing so. And Giuliani said, "You're going to take these zeros or you're all going to go to jail." And they said, "Yeah, no problem, boss. We'll take these zeros." And they signed off on it and they left. So that's one. But then Pat Lynch comes into office and they go first. Always, for every contract negotiation. And then they go into arbitration for every contract negotiation. And you waited roughly, on average, about 7 years in between raises. And what that did was the city would offer, let's say, 3s or whatever they offered. And for 7 years, the PBA would fight it. and you wouldn't get that raise for 7 years, meaning you were out of that salary. Your ITHP didn't get that money. Your 50% didn't get that money. Your 457 and your 401ks didn't get that money. So you didn't get the compounded interest. You didn't get the growth during that time. So those zeros may have cost you about $10,000 at that time frame. But going to arbitration through this collective bargaining, that the Lynch style of going through with his fake John Kennedy, we're zeros for heroes, all of that stuff, that cost all of us in every rank hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that was the driving factor of why we're behind all of these other police agencies in New York. And we're still trying to catch up now. It was that whole rhetoric around the heroes for zeros. Was it right? I don't think it was right, but it wasn't horrible. It wasn't signing away your health care for a raise. It wasn't forcing you to put body cameras that we're going to utilize completely improperly and have no bounds and even watch you when you don't have them on. It wasn't giving away vacation days, chart days, time off. It wasn't giving away tour changes. It wasn't self-funded raises that has been ever since that Zeros for Heroes contract. Every contract that you've gotten since has been self-funded. And overall, even if Rudy Giuliani sucked at compensating the cops, he's still by far the best mayor. There's more to a city than paying cops money. There's more to running a city and keeping an overall city. Rudy Giuliani transformed New York City from a city of crime that was controlled by the Italian mafia to a city that was the mecca of business, the financial capital of the world, a city where you could walk around, take a train at 2 o'clock in the morning and not worry about any of it. And did he do it on the backs of the NYPD? Absolutely he did. But he backed his cops, and New York City is better as a result of Mayor Rudy Giuliani. And that is just a fact. He is the best mayor in New York City history.
Listen, I think it's a fantastic point. I think that the raises and contracts through Pat Lynch were more of a facade. And I think that people, when you actually do the economics and you actually got zeros there too. And that's the point to this. The difference with Giuliani, you actually got zeros on paper, and Lynch is telling you that you get this great contract. But when you don't have a contract for 6 and 7 years and you're not contributing to your 401k, 457 or outside investments, you maybe, or you're not able to buy a home because you didn't get those raises during those 7 years, or your credit cards were backed up to survive, and then you got that money and now you're paying, you had an 8% interest raise and you're trying to pay 27% because your credit cards, you're still behind. So I think this idea that these zeros was so terrible when you had no losses, when also with Pat Lynch, every time there was a give back, you never get it back. And I'm a firm believer, once you give something back, you never get it back. So while that's not a great contract to get 2 zeros, 00336. If you do the comparison to the Pat Lynch years of not having a contract, 5 to 7 years, in retrospect, you got zeros in many different avenues and different aspects. So you need to break it down and really understand the math. It's, I think it was sold a bullshit bag of goods. And I think under the Pat Lynch administration, what they had to pay to get those contracts, what they lost. And I say they, the cops, including myself, you, John, and Marlon, what we lost during that time, the credit card bills that cops gathered during those times, and being behind the wheel for 6, 7 years, you never catch up, especially with inflation. It hurts you. And it hurts you. And yes, House for Life, spot on. Retro for the tax man. When you get that retro pay, and now normally if you're making $50,000 a year or $100,000 a year, rhetorically speaking, and now you get a retro pay of $50,000 to $75,000, that puts you in another tax bracket and it hits you pretty hard. So you get hit on all different aspects. I would much rather be up to date on raises than ever get a retro for those reasons.
100%. And Mayor Bodybuilding TV says it here. Rudy gave a 00336. So you got a 12% raise with no givebacks. You got beat out of retro. He beat you out of retro. That's basically it. Every contract since was years and years out, and you gave everything back. So I get you on the front lines. I get it. You got screwed out of retro. He screwed you out of retro. That doesn't make him a bad mayor. He's still the best mayor that New York City ever had. Doesn't matter. All right, yeah, he didn't pay you guys exactly what you deserve. What mayor has? I mean, I don't understand what all you guys are hung up on. I really don't. You got to get over yourselves. Seriously.
And to add to that, John, honestly, why would he? Because it's not like if they don't pay you, you're not going to do the job. And that's been the point we've been trying to tell the cops for years. If Zohran Mamdani says they're going to go back and forth and you're going to get 0 for 6 years, guess what the cops are going to go out there and do? They're going to go out there and do their job. They're going to cry about it. They're going to bitch. They're going to complain, but they're going to go out there and do the job. So why would any mayor even pay you? So the fact that he gave you 12% is pretty damn good. And what did they get in the 6-year contract under Pat Lynch? Did they get 12%? What was the percentage of this past contract? I'm not sure. I don't even think.
I mean, honestly, when you look at it in the long term, it's probably negative 30% because you're not going to afford healthcare and
exactly,
and you need it. It's probably negative 30. You know, you funded your own raise through your healthcare.
You funded your own. That's the big key.
How much is healthcare and retirement going to cost you? Much more than you're making in your pension. A lot more. Much more. How much your medicine going to cost you? More than your monthly pension payment. That's how much. So, you know, I don't know. Look, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just a revisionist. I don't know. You know, it's my revisionist.
Math is off, John. You see, retro's good, man. It's like a savings account. You get an extra $75,000.
Good.
It's really my tax guy's fault because they put you in another tax bracket. Damn. Yeah, they gave you $75,000, but you paid $25,000 that year in taxes.
And don't worry about it, Eric. Money grows on trees, so we'll just give Zohran Mamdani the money from our pensions, and he could stop funding our pension payments because money grows on trees, and it'll always be there. And what you guys are doing is you're scaring retirees and active workers. You're scaring them that potentially Democrats could collapse a city like they did in Detroit, could bring us into a pension deficit like they did in every other state in this whole entire union. You know, you're scaring them. Democratic leadership is the way to go, and you guys are revisionists. All right,
John,
give Zohran Mamdani all your money. He is a genius with math. Genius.
Do you and Marlon think that?
Remember, trust your unions, people. Trust your unions.
Trust them. Do you and Marlon think if that the cops got zeros for 6 years straight in this last? Where do you think they would go to on the following day? I think they would go to work. I think they would just go to work like it's any other day and do their job. And if anyone wants to disagree with me, look at the vaccine mandate. They're going to go to work and do their job. If they got zeros for 6 years, nothing changed. Why would a mayor even pay them? Honestly, they're going to go out there and do the job. The unions aren't going to fight back. They're going to go, oh, all right.
Yeah.
Packed courtrooms.
It's true. It's true. What are you going to do about it? You know? And you even going to go to your union meetings? No. Yeah. Look, they forced you to take that BS a couple years ago. What are you doing about it now? Nothing. If you get something from it, who's going to pay your health insurance? Who's going to pay those deductibles? It ain't going to be the city, right? Because they're busy trying to take away your health care. Okay.
But Marlon, think about all the money they got in their ITHP and all that, and all the compounds, the 8.25, and now they got their variable, and you know, so it's good. Even if even if you last 6 months, it's worth it.
Yeah, maybe if we don't talk about it, it won't happen. You know, if we just ignore it, it won't happen at all. Okay, and
you know what? If you're a cop and you get zeros for 6 years and you get your license suspended because you got speeding tickets off these cameras, guess what they're going to do? They're going to go to work on a bicycle. They're going to go to work. And the cops, oh no, we're going to push back. They're going to go to work. I think the vaccine mandate proved that the cops will do whatever it takes. They'll get up, they'll go to work on a bicycle or roller skates, but they'll make it to work. They will. The unions will do nothing. Unions will get a contract with you with a bike company, and you'll get a better bicycle. That's about it. But you'll be on your way to work on a bike, and they'll be there.
Steven Cofino. Steve, come join us over on YouTube where we make a lot more money for your engagement. And there's a much bigger chat over here. So you'd probably get along with some of the guys. Pay aside 00336. He was still a solid mayor who did right by the city. I love the job. I gave it everything I had, no matter what the paycheck looked like. Yeah, 100%. And look, I'm not defending it. I'm not defending you guys getting zeros at all. Is it right? No. But when you look at the contract overall, we haven't had a better contract since. I mean, it's sick to say. You got paid up front like some retro. Yeah, okay. I'm on Eric. I never want that retro. I just want my contracts up to date. It's the same thing with people. I got all this money back in taxes. It's like, all right, well, you paid the federal government all this money, and you probably got back. I don't want to get any money back in taxes. I don't like paying the money that I have to wind up paying either. But I'd rather have my money throughout the year either. Like if you did your job competently, and like you did your accounting competently, you got a zero. They're not giving you money, and you're not giving them money. You're paying your taxes to a T. I wind up giving them a lot of money every year. It is what it is. I'd rather give them the money. I'd rather give them the money. I'd rather give them the money than, hey, I'd rather pay myself first than pay the government first. Most people in this country would rather pay the government first and then pay themselves.
I'm with you. I'd rather I owe them before they owe me. I'm with you 100%. Yeah. I always tell people, man, if you want a free loan, don't pay your taxes. All they'll do is just they'll tell you got to pay this amount every month.
Dude, believe me, I'm the first thing from a tax man, Frank, and don't take any financial advice or life advice from me whatsoever. So I've been getting all these things. I really like the content you put out. I don't always agree with you. And I'm like, look, if you always agree with me, I'd be giving you the number to my psychiatrist because there's something seriously wrong with you. If you agree with anyone 100% of the times, seek mental help. Seriously. So I'm not giving anyone advice. I'm just saying my personal opinions here,
Yeah. And if you say you agree with your wife all the time, you're just lying, just to have an easy household. No way.
No way.
Yeah. So in addition to not understanding inflation, cops don't understand opportunity costs either. Okay? Because if you're giving the federal government all that money in the air, then that's money that you could have invested in the market. Okay? So
yeah, I think Sleepy Joe and Ron Lason, great comments right here, back to back. Sleepy Joe says, tax returns just mean the government borrowed your money for 0% interest. Spot on. I agree. And then Ron Lason says, people don't realize if you pay taxes at the end of the year, the extra money you got during the year was interest free. That's exactly what I'm talking about. It's almost like a free loan. Spot on. So I'd rather owe them than they owe me.
Joe says we know they're too stupid to give advice. Don't worry. All right. Well, that's fair, Joe. Then you are smarter than I thought. So, and then Frank Rangan. Frank has a thing for Ron too. He doesn't like Ron either. He hates Marino, but he doesn't like Ron either.
That's pretty funny. I think Frank Reagan has a hit list here. Hopefully we're not on it.
Can only agree with someone 100% of the time if you're over 4'11". Well, I'm 5 feet, so 5'2" with heels, bro. 5'2" with heels. Joe says laughing takes the pain away. What do you think, guys? We got since we have Nin here, do we have time for one extrajudicial punishment or not video?
Yeah, isn't it funny how we suspect who Nin is and using that term extrajudicial punishment? Well, certain people on a certain podcast use that term now too. I don't believe in coincidences, but sure seems like it.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think we do.
Yeah.
But one quick thing just to close it out before we get there. I saw this comment by Ruben, and Ruben's alluding to the Audi mentioned in the Streets blog original article as the Audi having the most tickets, right? The Audi is believed to be from Brooklyn, right? And keep in mind, Brooklyn is majority minority at this point, right? I suspect that the car is driven by a minority, which would be inconvenient to the Streets blog and what they're trying to do. That's why they needed a white cop to further the narrative and to push this through.
From
so
Staten
something
Island.
to keep in mind.
Yeah.
So is this racial equity and traffic safety?
DEI traffic.
Or is this optics first traffic safety, just like our public safety model? Yeah.
Oh, man.
All right. Let's get to our extrajudicial punishment segment. So is this extrajudicial punishment or not? So full disclosure, I have no idea what happened here. I don't care. I don't need to know. What I see is two officers trying to arrest a suspect that clearly the owner of the store called on for whatever he was doing. And the suspect is completely non-compliant. So let's get into the video.
Oh, he's jumping on. Oh, he's wilding on him.
Stop. Get on the ground. Get on the ground.
Oh,
Clean shot. Taser failed.
Well, goes without saying, Taser's less effective than 50% of
Pepper
the
spray
time.
failed.
I might want to come in this time about to spray it.
It's only effective 49% of the time. Does that look
Oh, they ducking him. They ducking him. They ducking him. So they beating him up. I'm recording.
No, Sleepy Joe, I'm with you. Taser trash. 49% of the time. That's it, brother.
This guy called them to beat him up. Why are you talking to me for, bro? Can I say anything to you? And I'm gonna put you on camera. You wanted attention, so I'm gonna give you attention.
Brother, I'm
Nobody
not
come
that.
to this store, y'all. I'm downtown. I'll show you my. I'm a rapper. All my fans gonna come in.
So whole video, 1 minute, 31 seconds. They never get this dude in handcuffs. Again, we've been talking about the diaphragm law and how this leaves cops with very little options. So for those of you that aren't from New York City or you aren't familiar with the diaphragm law says that cops cannot restrict someone's diaphragm, meaning you can't put pressure to someone's neck, chest, or back. That eliminates an NYPD cop's ability to deploy even basic control techniques that are deployed in wrestling throughout the country, throughout the city, that are trained in high schools, as well as jujitsu techniques. It's a misdemeanor for NYPD to cop to engage in that. So people are always going, the training. Train them to do what? To get arrested and get a misdemeanor? So their options they're left with are their taser, their ASP, pepper spray, close fist strike. So you clearly saw the officer deployed the taser. It failed, as it always does in these dynamic situations. In this case, though, which is particularly concerning, is he had a clear shot of the individual, and it still failed. Still wasn't good. So he deployed that. Then he deployed his pepper spray. It didn't look like he shook it up so well. But it was ineffective on the individual, and doing so inside of a business, I would not do, because I'm definitely eating it, and so is my partner, and I hate getting maced. I've been done a million times, and I don't want to get maced anymore. So I wouldn't have deployed in that situation. He did. It didn't work. I don't know if it was because the pepper spray was ineffective, if he didn't shake it enough. I have no idea. Then he moves into deploying close first strikes because, again, he can't take the suspect down by his head, and he can't deploy any wrestling or jiu-jitsu style takedowns. If doing so, that's a misdemeanor. And what you saw is they fall to the ground, ultimately wind up violating the diaphragm law anyway, because there is no way to get a resisting suspect into handcuffs without compressing the diaphragm. And then his partner was doing, utilizing the taser, using what's called the dry stun feature. That feature really, obviously, what we saw is completely ineffective, because he attempted to do it on numerous parts of his body, and it wasn't causing the suspect to comply at all. The dry stun feature will be gone in this next set of tasers. I believe it's the Taser X10. You will not have the ability to use the dry stun feature at all. So basically, cops are being left with cracking someone over the head with a ASP or hard, and they don't want you to hit in the head, so you have to hit in the soft parts. So the ASP is kind of ineffective. And then all you're really left with is closed fist strikes, So I'm sure Nin will say that this is extrajudicial punishment, but I'm just going to say that this is ugly. It looks ugly. Police work is ugly. The diaphragm law made it uglier and made it more dangerous for cops, for civilians, and for resisting suspects. And it's causing officers to use higher levels of force. So this is what police work looks like, Nin. This isn't extrajudicial punishment. But thanks for being here. We appreciate you.
Yeah, I just want to say, well said, brother. There's really not even much to discuss at this point. I think you laid it out perfectly. You described it well. I just want to say this. To my shock, well, not even to my shock, I guess we got used to it at this point. I just want to say how compliant and how cognizant that the NYPD boots on the ground are of laws, rules, and policies. Because it is human nature, even without training, that when you're in a tussle, and you see it many times. You even see it with kids that are untrained. You even see it with trained boxers that have gotten to fights in the street. That natural reaction is to get close, grapple, and take each other to the ground. That's what, even without training. If you watch, this happens often. Trained boxers in the street, when I'm saying that don't have a grappling background, will actually grab each other. You even see in a boxing match. What happens in a boxing match? When two boxers get tired or their technique, they're finding it's not being effective, they start to clinch up and kind of grapple. That's human nature to be in a fight situation, especially since your knuckles are really not designed for punching. So cops are so compliant and cognizant of the rules that they're avoiding those grappling situations because it's law. And exactly what John said, they're forced to use brutal tactics, which are strikes. And it's just amazing to me. And even with that, if you watch here, they're still violating the diaphragm law accidentally and unintentionally. It's just a shame because it's virtually impossible to control another human being without compressing the diaphragm by chest to chest. And if you think you're just going to hold someone down without your hands, it's virtually impossible because a good grappling or wrestling situation takes chest to chest pressure. It's not using your hands to control someone. It's chest to chest pressure. It's by holding someone's hips down and their shoulders. So I don't think this is extrajudicial punishment at all. In fact, it's the cops showing how compliant and resilient they are, that they can't use the necessary tools and techniques that are proper to get another person in custody. So shout out to the boots on the ground for doing their job with little tools and little training.
Yeah. John was spot on in his comments on this. And, it's pretty sad that the unions aren't speaking up about the diaphragm law more, because what it essentially is doing is it's encouraging more police brutality and it's encouraging ugly melees. Those ugly melees turn into what's perceived as police brutality by the public, the law information public and the media, who will use videos like this as outrage bait to drive the progressives into a frenzy again. But, call me a conspiracist or whatever, but I just think that the goal of these politicians is they want a revolution, is in my opinion. Okay. I think they're on the one hand, they're encouraging people to resist, to stand up to ICE and police. And at the same time, they're removing the tools that police have to dissuade people from resisting arrest, to dissuade them from feeling emboldened to push back against cops and to fight cops on the street. I think they need a revolution, and they need, in my opinion, they need the Constitution like destroyed. Okay, with all the actions we're seeing from them is them going around the Constitution, going around things like due process, and completely ignoring it when it comes to New York State. Because if we still had due process, me and John would still be working right now. Okay, so I think they need the Constitution gone, because I think if we're gonna go to a society where you're gonna automate things like tickets, right? You can't automate due process. It's impossible. It's impossible to ever have a robot policeman giving you a ticket or arresting you. You need humans involved in the process. Okay. and they clearly want to get to a society run by AI. And again, you cannot have that if you have the Constitution and the Bill of Rights there. So how do we get there? Well, they need a revolution, and they need the Bill of Rights shredded. Okay, so they're going to do all they can to encourage resistance, to encourage people to resist the police, resist arrest, and to fight the police on the street, while at the same time taking away the tools to prevent police from getting into melees. So
I love Nin though. Nin, honestly, you keep me going. Nin, I got another. I think we have one more segment for you, just because you're gonna love this one. But he says, John, I've seen you look at so many use of force outside New York City, and they don't have the diaphragm law, and yet you still justify all of the violence because you're mentally unwell. I mean, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, it's possible. Then you should come on here one day. We should break down the video with us and tell us, you could explain extrajudicial punishment to us and how you think it plays on, instead of hiding behind your fake name. We would love to have you. So I think this is just one segment that Nin needs to have, because it's relevant. It's a Nin type of segment. It's one that he's going to love. And let's get into it.
Yeah. Joe thinks we're horrible cops because we were never captains. So you need to be a captain to be a good cop, Joe. Okay, Joe. We've shown you how many chiefs with not even 30 collars on their names. Okay, not even 30 arrests on their name, but they were good cops, right? Because they made chief and they went through the ranks of captain. So such a dumb comment,
No, it's funny.
John scared of needles. Eric left because he was going to get prosecuted. He would have got if he was going to get prosecuted, he would have got prosecuted anyway.
Exactly.
I have tattoos all over my body. How am I scared of needles? What are you talking about?
What?
And Eric and Marlon, what do you say about Marlon? And Marlon got fired. Yeah, without due process, for absolutely no reason, for something
That's the stupidest thing. So when I retired, they couldn't prosecute me if they wanted to prosecute me. It's the stupidest thing. Doesn't make any sense. But here's a guy who thinks that 14% is so impressive. He says no. Joe 14. Well, actually, 6899 says, no one is hiding from you, John. Yeah, dude, you're hiding from yourself. Why don't you be proud and show your picture, show who you are? What are you hiding from? What are you scared of? Apparently, you're scared, Joe, because you won't put your picture. You won't tell us who you are. So what are you afraid of? We're not coming after you. I'm not even close to New York right now, so you don't have to worry. I'm not coming near you. John,
I'm only 5 foot on a good day, bro. I'm not. Yeah.
And if you're such a tough guy, man, listen, we're not gonna mess you. You're so tough. I'm scared of you. You're tough, man. You're really tough. We can't handle you. So what do you look like anyway? I bet Joe is probably about 4'11".
I'll bet you what Joe doesn't look like. This is what Joe doesn't.
He doesn't look like that.
He doesn't look like that. So
he doesn't look like a motivated cop.
So this cop left. Wanted to come back. You're entitled to come back within a year. Very active cop trying to come back. The department used COVID as an excuse. The department basically stopped working forever, and they blamed everything. Oh, because of COVID, we can't do this. Oh, because of COVID, we can't do that. And they didn't reinstate him, even though there was no reason to not reinstate him. Very active cop. Yes, he's definitely got CCRBs. I think he has about 50 allegations against him. Only 2 was substantiated.
My man.
And I'm sure if I look into those substantiations, I'm not going to think they were a big deal. Maybe it's because Nin's right and I'm mentally unwell. Or maybe it's because when you're out there doing police work and you're involved in today's day and age, since 2018, if you're out there and doing police work, you're going to get complaints. If you're not out there and doing police work, you're probably still going to get a lot of complaints. There's nothing you could do. It's the system that you're in. This is this new style of self-reporting. So the guys that were in the 80s and 90s, you guys probably got complaints too, but they're not really documented anymore, So they're not on there. They were never followed you through your career. They're lost to time. Again, I think that he is the exact opposite of what the NYPD wants. They want Asian women. That is their main goal in hiring now. Now, is there the hierarchy of black and brown males? Yeah, there is. But overall, they become lower than Asian women. I mean, we showed you Tanya Meisenholder in 2021 on a podcast talking about Asian women, and yet that feverish pitch to hire Asian women is still there. Now, I'm not saying that Asian women can't be good cops, but I'm just saying traditionally they're not. Traditionally, they don't want to be cops. Traditionally, culturally, they don't seek to become cops. Now, they're pushing all of it. Oh, well, we have to recruit more. We have to get more. And what are they doing as a result? They're lowering standards to get there. Me personally, if I call 911, I'd rather this officer showing up to help me than a 4'11" Asian woman. I'm sorry. I just, call me racist, call me whatever you like, but it's just the realist because everybody else would probably rather that too.
Yeah. What was I going to say about this? Kind of lost my train of thought there. Yeah. How is this guy not allowed back when Luis Molina is allowed, what is it, 13, 14 years after he retired,
Exactly.
he's allowed to come back on and balloon his pension? How I want an explanation on that.
Look at the
And
comparison.
I hope John Scola is watching this right now, because I think I want to see the job explain this in court. How is he not allowed back, but Molina is allowed to come back and balloon his pension up? What's the argument against it?
Well, this is the evidence I've been telling you right now. If you're an alpha white male, there's no way that you're getting to the police department or back to the police. But I've been saying this. This is a quintessential cop that should be rehired. There's no doubt about it. But my brother, if you're watching this, there are police departments throughout this entire country that would definitely hire you right now. And I see those ears, and those ears tell me a story. One is that's from wrestling. There's no doubt about it, right? And I do jiu-jitsu myself. I have cauliflower, but it's a different look. I can tell right now. I can look at ears and I can tell it's jiu-jitsu or wrestling. What does that tell me? Those ears tell a story. He's a wrestling background, right? Possibly MMA also, which means he's disciplined, he's motivated, he has courage, he's athletic, he's dedicated to something. You don't get those ears by staying on the couch. It means he got up and he went and struggled, right? No one gets good at MMA and wrestling and jiu-jitsu right away. You suck for years. That means that's why you get those ears, right? Because everyone's getting smashed, but it shows motivation, dedication. This is someone that should be in the police department. This should be, he's the poster boy for what the police department should be looking for. And I said before, because those ears tell a story. Those ears tell a story. Someone who's motivated, who has masculinity. It doesn't mean, and people say, they see someone that can fight. Yeah, I'm sure he can handle himself, but that doesn't, and that's exactly what you want. You want someone that has that presence that can fight. That doesn't mean he looks for fights, but he can handle himself and he can be a protector. And that's what we should want. And the reality is, people that have training have less likely to actually hurt someone else because he has the training and can control. But even him with the training, it doesn't matter right now with the diaphragm law, because with the diaphragm law, he can't even use the tools and techniques that he has with the training. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's the upside down world right now, the police department and New York City policies and legislation. So my brother, if you're watching this, shout out to you. I know you want to get back. I spoke to some people, actually told me him specifically that he was a great cop. And I know there's definitely police departments throughout this entire country that would definitely want you. So I hope unfortunately, the NYPD is the upside down world in New York City. So hopefully you're willing to relocate and find something that suits you. But it's a shame right now. This proves, I've been saying this for 4 years now, that I've been saying a lot longer, since 2018, but on this network, if you're alpha white male, you're not getting to the police department.
Unless you know someone. If you know someone, we'll get you there. We'll call the chief of personnel. We'll make sure you get through that process. Don't worry about it. If you don't know anyone, you're not getting it. And I've said it over and over again. I get all these cops that take opposition. I'm like, it's not the NYPD you came in. It's not. There is a quota system, and it's based on race and gender. And if you don't think there is, you haven't been paying attention. So you probably shouldn't comment to what we're saying. Because I'm not speaking because of my opinion. This is fact. It's ask anybody that's involved in hiring. Ask anybody in the academy. It is a absolute fact. So yeah, I mean it's ridiculous. If you're entitled to a year to come back, he should have been able to come back. Me and Marlon should have been able to come back. But hey, it is what it is. We weren't elite. Well, our health wasn't elite like Joe's.
That's
So,
because you both are alpha white males. And Marlon, as far as I'm concerned, to the progressives and the anti alpha white male, Marlon might as well be an alpha white male because he's not playing the game of, he doesn't follow the black template. So Marlon, epic fail. You're now an alpha white male.
Yeah.
no, yeah.
Well, you remember that Dave Chappelle skit with the racial draft? You know.
Yeah.
I
no,
guess
I don't remember that one. Which one's that?
It's
The
just
racial
hilarious.
trail?
Yeah, it was hilarious with the race draft with Tiger Woods and
Oh, I gotta watch that one.
yeah, the black and the Asian delegation were fighting over Tiger Woods. So this
No,
was
I gotta see
Tiger at
that
his
one.
prime. Yeah. So I guess the black delegation is gonna kick me out for a certain Guardians Power Hour host, you know. So yeah. I guess I'm getting kicked out now, huh? Unless I start towing the line.
You're gonna be the zone, brother. You're the
progressive
zone,
narrative.
man.
Yeah.
You're the center, Marlon,
No,
but you're not a Judas.
no ponytail for you.
But you're
Well, listen,
not a
man, we've been
Judas.
it's almost 3 hours and 20 minutes into it. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for everyone being with the network. Find us Unfiltered. I think these topics out today are outstanding. SRG, that's going to be rebranded, no doubt about it. Dialogue unit, even though it's already there, it's called Community Affairs. Be prepared. That's coming soon. If you're in that unit, yes, that's going to be you. And if you're looking to get transferred to SRG or the new name, that will be you also. So think about it. That should be a fat chief sitting on a cop's head. There's no doubt about it because that's what's happening. The only difference is we don't see his ankles there. And to that cop out there that can't get back to the NYPD, as I said before, there are police departments throughout this entire country that would love to take you back. And I can tell you this, there's plenty of cities and states out there in the U.S. that are great to live in, far better than New York right now, where you have your freedom and there's not camera speed tickets everywhere. You can actually live your life of freedom. You can carry a gun. So definitely take that approach. And for as far as extrajudicial punishment, those cops, you did the best you could with the tools and techniques that you're left with. So shout out to you. Good job with the compliance and everything. So let's do the coffee and donuts if there's any.
Oh yeah, forgot. Almost skipped out on that one. All right, Monin Samurai, $20. Taking on the tough issues again. People need to have a healthy respect for laws, law enforcement, and civil order. If you don't, it needs to be handled. God bless you guys, and God bless the NYPD. Such a thankless job these days.
That's right.
Well said, my friend. People are still doing it. God bless you guys that are still doing it, but do it carefully and smartly. Or you could do what the Ponytail Judas tells you. Follow your training. I always tell you guys, follow your training. What training? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Who do we got here? We got Staten Guy, 321. Such a waste. It's all such a waste of everybody's time. All we do is waste time and money. It's so frustrating. They fake making progress by playing word games. It's so annoying back at square one. That's all it is. It's just, it's all nonsensical optic dialogue that really is all just a big grift. It's just a family and friends car leasing service, like what was going on in the NYPD when people had 19 drivers and 15 vehicles assigned to them. It's just a grift. It's a thieving the taxpayer out of money. It's told to you so back when, says chief ranked is now the rank of Baghdad Bob.
That's funny. That's hilarious.
And
yeah, that came out early in the episode. We're talking about what should we call chiefs. Good stuff.
Yeah, and 516 Diecast and his new name, he definitely gave a donation, and I don't know where it is. I can't find it.
Yeah, he did. He was the first one actually today.
Yeah.
Finance 25.
Oh, he says, okay, here, I found it. 8836, present for duty. Hello, all. Good morning. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you, brother. Thanks for
Well, if you've done a
donation.
shout out, bro, thanks.
Yeah, that's it, people. That is it. Do you guys know who Tom and Peter had on tomorrow night?
Give me a second. I'll pull it up.
Yeah, I was actually just looking at it.
I forgot to look. I'm terrible with it. I can't remember. I definitely shared it too.
You just have to concentrate. Well,
I know the times now. I'm good. I I got it. My dyslexia is gone now. So Wednesday morning, we're going to have Detective James Tillman on, 27 years, most of that in the 7-3. So we're looking forward to that interview. That'll be a good interview for Wednesday morning, 08:05 with us. Ron, since you're on here, brother, what are you and Rob going to be talking about? Have you guys decided yet?
Yeah. So the tavern tomorrow is going to have on
Right. Tommy Burke, baby.
Oh yeah, legend.
The best. Did you go to Tommy Burke's auto crime training, Marlon?
I did.
I did have something there, but it was a very long time ago.
You would have known if you had this guy.
I went to the auto crime class. That was probably the best training in the NYPD. Other than the active shooter training, that was top notch.
I never got the active. I never.
The way he broke, active shooter training was very good. But the way he broke down the VIN numbers and taught you every number and how it had its meaning, I still never forget all that stuff. So Burke, if you watch this, brother, shout out to you, man, legend. I still. Every time I buy a car or look at VIN numbers, I never look at a VIN number the same. You changed my life when it comes to that. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So,
no, yeah, I thought he gave a good perspective. I thought he was great at training.
Awesome.
I thought his stories really came into play. He gave you like a good perspective. I thought he a really good storyteller, really good educator, Tommy Burke. That was definitely one of the best trainings I've had. You know, Ron said, not undetermined what Wednesday, but the following Wednesday, they'll have retired Deputy Inspector Allison Esposito. She's also, oh man, why can't I think of his name? Who ran for governor against Hochul?
He's
the commissioner right now. He's in charge of oh man, my brain's not good. The mushroom coffee's not kicking in lately.
The mushroom coffee's not kicking good. Should be.
What the hell's his name? Lee Zeldin. Lee Zeldin. He ran for.
Zeldin, yeah.
She was Lee Zeldin's lieutenant governor running mate. She was the running mate for Lee Zeldin. So, yeah, that'll be a good interview. I'm curious to hear what she's got to say.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Yeah.
All kidding aside, man. Again, shout out to Tommy Burke, dude. You want to talk about legend? I mean, he, like I said, I took numerous training courses in the NYPD, and I never remember it the way I did with Tommy Burke. Like, I still remember the VIN number. If you remember that, Johnny, he breaks down of each number, like the first number or letter is where it's made. The 10-digit was the year the car was built. Like, just really impressive, man. Super impressive.
Yeah, it was really cool. New York 26 says, can you guys ask him to explain that whole thing with the VIN numbers? Yeah, well, let's ask him tomorrow. I mean, he's going to be on there tomorrow, 7:05 p.m. Eastern time, 19:05 military time. Go on, ask him. You know, he broke the whole thing down. I mean, we would mangle it, but it was similar to what Eric was saying. I mean, but like a lot of his stories related to how he got into like pursuing car thefts. And you got to remember at that time, it was totally different. You know, when me and Eric received that training, car thefts were like in the tank. There was like nothing was going on.
That's true.
It was like finding a white tiger. Now all that stuff's back. You know, all that stuff's back. Like we were still around like with the beginning of the stealing of the tires, with the stealing of, but you got to remember all the later technology, the latest technology at the time, they hadn't found a way to beat it out yet. With the fobs and all that stuff. Now all that stuff is open. So
there was one thing that sucked about that training, though. It was all the way in the 105 at that stupid hospital. It could be the furthest point away.
Creedmoor.
Yeah, Creedmoor. Yeah, that was the only thing that sucked. Like, it was the furthest point away, almost to Long Island. That was the only thing that sucked.
Yeah. So good stuff. Joe 6899 says we only have bootlickers on the show. Not true at all, my friend. We've had Cop Watch on here. We've had Zohran Mamdani on here. We've had many people who are in opposition to the show. We recently had Streets Blog on here. I mean, like, what are you even talking about, dude?
Joe,
you're welcome to come
afraid
on
to show
here.
his face.
You're welcome to come on here.
Yeah. Joe always says he's in the gym, you know, but Joe has plenty enough time to type out all these responses, but he doesn't have time to come on.
He does it between sets.
Joe's the guy in the gym where he's just like at the front desk and he's drinking the protein shakes and he's talking to everybody that walks in. You know,
he probably
it's
wears
like,
those
dude,
little,
like I'm trying to work out, bro. Like, you know, Joe's the reason why people like go to the gym now and they put earplugs in so they don't get bothered. They're like, there's all these people seeking social attention in the gym too. That's why I don't traditionally go to a gym because I can't be around it.
Joe.
All right, Joe. Keep trying it.
Yeah, he's Joe 6899, 14%.
My face when you come to New York.
Yeah. Joe, I'll be in New York June 12th to the 14th in Long Island, an event for cancer for my son. I'll be there. I'll send you the flyer, my exact location. I will be there and the dates. So if you want to come meet me, I'd love to meet you.
Yeah.
Mike says he's probably at Platinum Fitness with his city.
That's great. But no, Mike Smith always got good comments.
Yeah. Good luck going to the gym, John. Yeah. Good luck. Yeah. You'd be interrupted like every 2 minutes by somebody who watches the show. Yeah. Especially if you go to a gym in like Bay Ridge or something, you know, when you're up there.
Joe is hysterical. He says, we know you don't go. So, Joe, I'm going to just let you know right now. I bet you any amount of money I could do more pull-ups and more push-ups than you. And right now, I could do it after I eat dinner and you're super fresh. I guarantee it. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Hold on, Joe's got 14% body fat. Oh, he says, no, I go to Equinox. That's funny.
Isn't that expensive over there?
Oh, Equinox. Oh, good. I know all the guys that own that gym. I'll come to Equinox, Joe. Give me an invite. I'll come there. I'll be there. What time you go, Joe? I'll come. I'll come.
I love the show I'm there too.
No, I like Equinox. Like, I'll go. I'm just like preferably early in the morning, like, because I just don't. I'm not there for the social hour, and if I go there, it's going to be a social fest because I grew up with all those guys. So Equinox is a good gym, all the way out on Arthur Hill Road. They got great equipment there. But I just don't like the social aspect of the gym. I just don't. You know, I stopped doing it a long time ago.
Joe don't even know what he's talking about. John's a big dude, man. I don't even know what you're talking about. And he probably has better body fat than you. No, that's right. You got 14%.
Yeah,
he's a 14%.
Joe's a Manhattan guy too. You know.
Yeah. Joe's a 14%. Wow.
Sleepy Joe says squats are easier.
Joe's in shape. You know, he just got a little bit on the stomach still, right, Joe? A little belly fat, right?
All right, people. All right, let's wrap it up. Thanks for all the love today, people. We appreciate you. Yeah. Mon Samurai says I need a ladder to get up to the pull-up wall. I jump high though, so it's good. It's a good thing I could jump high. I got a good vertical, so I could get up there. Wall Street, 7 a.m. Come on, bro. I'm not coming to the city. That's crazy.
I don't know why people have. Honestly, no offense to the gym. The gym is great, but I don't even know why people have arguments like, "Oh, you want to meet me in person? I lift weights. I got 14% body fat. That's great. You should lift weights. You shouldn't be in shape, but it doesn't equate to fighting skills. You shouldn't like that. Your body fat doesn't, say that you can handle yourself in the streets, Joe. I don't think you understand how life works, but whatever. It's okay.
Yeah. Joe's a hedge fund bro guy, bro Eric. I don't think I think his idea of the streets are different from or what we think of the streets.
And then my other thing is, how old are you too? Because that's the other thing. Like, I love all these gym guys. Like, yeah, when I was 17, bro, I was ripped. And I was like, yeah, all right. Well, why wouldn't you be? Like, why wouldn't you be? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what are we talking about here?
These guys don't even know what they're talking about.
Meet me at Orange.
That's hilarious. Like, come on. Like, that's a stupid thing. Dude, when I was 20 years old in the Marine Corps, I ate Burger King or whatever the hell I wanted. I was shredded to the T. It's stupid. Who cares? 20 years old, of course. Now, if you can be in shape in your 40s, that's impressive.
Yeah, I'm scared to go to Wall Street at 7 o'clock in the morning. Joe, what the hell are you gonna do, bro? Like, seriously. I guess it's just completely inconvenient for me to go there from Staten Island to meet some guy who doesn't even want to show his face, right?
Meet me at the pull-up bars on 57th Street.
Also, I could show you that I could beat you in pull-ups, and you could stare at my arms. And you can stand and beat you in push-ups.
John, you already did it. You put out a video of you doing pull-ups. Joe, why don't you put out a picture so we can see who you are and do a video of you doing pull-ups, and then we'll compare who did more. Come on, Joe. This is your opportunity to show us your 14% body fat. I want to see what that looks like.
What I do in that video? What did I get to? 20 something? 20, 23, 25?
I think those numbers are inflated right now. I think it was about 20, right?
No, I think it was 25. I think it was 25.
I want to see Joe 14 with his 14% body fat. I want to see him do pull-ups.
I take self-defense classes. Okay.
He means he's doing Tai Chi in the morning at Battery Park City.
I always wanted to do that, by the way.
That's actually pretty funny.
I always dude, all those people look good. Like they're elderly. And right there, that's
like
the 5 points, right? That's the 5 points right there.
That area?
Oh, yeah.
Right there.
Oh.
That's the 5 points.
Oh, yeah. A long time ago, though.
Yeah, but that's where it was, right there, right at that intersection. That's where all the 5 points intersects. That's exactly where the 5 points is. Like Gangs in New York, it's right there where they do the Tai Chi. You got the Fed building behind you, or you got the park in front of you. That's the 5 points.
Yeah, that's impressive. I used to watch the going to court in Manhattan when I had college and stuff, or watching the old people do Tai Chi there. It was cool. Like a lot of people like that. There were some people there in their 80s, and they look good. God bless them.
Yeah. So, all right, peoples. All right, let's get out of here. We're about to lose some streams. 3 hours, 34 minutes.
I'm having fun with Joe.
I know he's funny. I like Joe. Joe, I like you, bro.
Me too.
Hey, Joe. Any tips? Which stock are we shorting right now, Joe?
Any Wall Street tips? Joe, do you have any tips for me for my body fat percentage? Do you have any tips? My diet? No.
Yeah, so that's it. So that's it. Look, I think we covered it well. It's not a matter of if, but when. It's not a matter of if, but when the SRG will transform into this new unit, whatever it's going to come. And same thing with Tisch being replaced by Issa Abbasi. I don't believe it's a matter of if, but when. I think it's just all timing. Curious to see who's going to roll out this new revolutionary style of policing First Amendment activity. It's going to be exactly what we said, so like Marlon always says, watch the finest Unfiltered, where you hear tomorrow's news today, and guaranteed this will be an exclusive New York Post article in the weeks or months to come. So for both of those topics. So I appreciate everybody for being here today.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Thank you so much for being with the Finance Unfiltered. To the chat, the engagement is awesome. To our friends and listeners, we appreciate our trolls, of course. Everybody counts. Finance Unfiltered Network, man. We are bringing, as Marlon says, you're right. We're bringing tomorrow's news today, and that's the reality. Is we're foreshadowing the stuff that's happening in the city and with the NYPD, not from insider tips, from our own observations. From far away, we're able to make these observations. So that's why I say to the active chiefs are up there, if we're able to make these observations from far away, why can't you up close when you're up there close and personal? There's no excuse for it. It's only because you're pandering and you want to get to that next star. So thank you, everyone. I think this is an awesome episode as always. We appreciate it. Without the engagement, it wouldn't be where it's at. So we appreciate we're climbing. We're getting close to 210,000 subscribers, and that's because of you. So thank you so much for helping with the viewership. Thank you for anyone with your donations, coffee and donuts, and shout out to you. Enjoy and look forward to tomorrow. Pete and Tom doing a hell of a job with their array of guests, and of course Wednesday Executive Perspective. So thank you to the entire family at the Finance Unfiltered.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, guys, and stay safe out there and stay alert. Summer's right around the corner, and sun's out, guns out. Not those type of guns, the kind of guns that put you in the hospital. Well, put you worse than a hospital. But I just got sent. Somebody posted this on Twitter, right? And it certainly looks to me like that's Alex Moreno right next to good old Frank.
Ding,
So
ding,
if
ding,
you happen
ding,
to see
ding,
Frank
ding.
Moreno out there and you're from Staten Island, you should thank him for screwing you. Okay. Right. So anyway, have a great day, guys. And again, stay safe.
Yeah, that is wild right there, bro.
Yeah, look at that, man.
That is wild. So
Well,
I like, look, you know, like I don't care that that's his brother, but like you're gonna go along with this legislation that you can't explain. And normally he responds, and I asked him, I said, Frank, do you really think that this bill is gonna improve public safety in New York City? And he clearly didn't respond because, I mean, you know, questions are violence, people. So, you know, we don't want to. And so I'm really disappointed. I like a lot of the stuff that Morano was doing. Traditionally, I would never consider him a Republican. I mean, I've argued with him on social media prior to him running, and he actually said, "I'm not a Republican." He was a supporter and friend of Justin Brannan. So I did like a lot of the stuff he does, and I'm sure I'll still like some of the stuff he does. But I think this is a profit motive driven piece of legislation that really circumvents due process and your Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights, and that is unacceptable for any politician, Republican or anybody else. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. That piece of legislation is garbage.
Yep.
Yeah, right. Listen, almost 3 hours and 40 minutes into it, showing great stamina here. Thank you, everyone, to the finest Unfiltered, and keep watching. Let's keep rocking. Let's keep building together. Thank you, everyone. NYPD SRG Rebranded right here.
That's it, people. 10-4 Tavern tomorrow. Tommy Burke. Definitely check that out. 7:05 p.m. We'll see you tomorrow.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?